Sorry for opening up the wrong tab there. But welcome back then to this live stream. It is now time for the main event of the weekend. It is the 65 lap Spanish Grand Prix for the top class. And if you didn't see what happened in qualifying yesterday, it was wet weather conditions which has mixed up the grid. And in the end, it was EMR's Sebastian Vettel who ended Etihad's run of pole positions by taking pole position in the Spanish Grand Prix, with Kimi Räikkönen second and Antonio Giovinazzi in third place after what has been a tricky season so far for the Irish team, as the two Etihads look to do battle from 4th and 5th on the grid and hope to get up the field as best as possible. 65 laps of action, looking to be a very exciting one indeed. Whatever the weather will be, we'll have to find out a little bit later on. But before we start then, guys, let's mute this, turn this up a little, and let's have a look at the grid for the Spanish Grand Prix. Here we go then. So on pole position, it's Sebastian Vettel with Kimi Räikkönen in second. Antonio Giovinazzi is in third with Fernando Alonso in fourth. Lewis Hamilton is in fifth with Nico Hülkenberg in the EMR in sixth position. Romain Grosjean starts seventh. Alongside him is the shadow of Sainz Jr. Brendon Hartley, taking advantage of the wet weather conditions, starts in ninth in the Monster. Alongside him is Sergio Pérez in the Dorado. Valtteri Bottas starts 11th. Alongside him is Charles Leclerc in the shadow. Stoffel Vandoorne is 13th with the now reduced power of Martini's 14th and 15th, Verstappen 14th and Ocon in 15th. Verline is 16th with Ricciardo in 17th. Oliver Rowland is in 18th with Jean-Eric Vergne in 19th position. Scott Dixon starts in 20th, and on the back row of the grid it's Ed Jones, and due to struggling in qualifying yesterday, Kevin Magnussen is in 22nd and last. And that is the grid for the Spanish Grand Prix. So there is the grid then, guys, for the Spanish Grand Prix. I did check about Magnussen's stats. There was nothing wrong with them, so I have no idea why he was that slow yesterday. But of course, the weather, let's have a look. It is raining for the Spanish Grand Prix. So we've got rain here, forecast for the Spanish Grand Prix. And it's looking to be very interesting as well. And, well, it will be the second wet race, I believe, of the season. So hopefully we have a good one. So leave your predictions, but without further ado, let's get to the Spanish Grand Prix. So here we are then on the grid then. It's Vettel on the left of your screens, Räikkönen on the right. Who's going to get the lead into turn 1 as we wait for the 5 red lights to go off to signify the start of the Spanish Grand Prix. 1 light, 2 lights, 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights are on, and it is go for the Spanish Grand Prix, and it seems to be a good start from Räikkönen, who seems to get a jump on Vettel at the start. Alonso's had a cracking start, trying to get the pair of them as he tries to impress the fans as he head down the pit straight. Räikkönen covers him off as we go down towards turn 1. Vettel trying to get the lead back as we head down towards the first corner now then on the track. Who's going to grab the lead of the race? It's going to be close. Vettel trying to hang in around the outside of Räikkönen, but it's not going to work. Kimi leads the Grand Prix. Räikkönen leads in Spain as they go through the first few corners. Has everybody got through? Okay, now then, it looks like everybody's got through okay, which is good to know, but it is Räikkönen who leads the way at the moment, as Vettel is currently in second place, trying to attack him back if he can. Alonso keeping up as well, as down the inside goes Hülkenberg on Giovinazzi and takes 4th place. Hamilton takes 6th from Brendon Hartley there. He didn't get a good launch of the line there then as we go through the right-hander on the track. And, well, that's that really as we go through these section of corners. Magnussen getting off the back row of the grid there, as you can see, as we now head downhill towards the turn 6 and 7 on the track now. Then Vettel trying to get back at Räikkönen. They're both leaving Alonso behind for the moment to fend off from Vettel's teammate Nico Hülkenberg as we go through in towards turn 6 and 7 on the track now. Then as we go through the right-hander, Vettel doing all he can to get Kimi Räikkönen in front of him at this stage. As he head down the back straight now then towards the left-hander now then. Vettel trying to get into the slipstream of Kimi now then, but not close enough to make a move as of yet. As meantime, as Hamilton's trying to have a look at Giovinazzi, Sainz goes down the inside of Hartley and takes 7th with ease. So up to P7 goes Sainz Jr. as he now goes through the right-hander. Vettel still trying his absolute best to get hold of Kimi Räikkönen now then as we go through the second to last corner now then. Up towards the final corner will go Sebastian Vettel. And now going down the pit straight we will go. Will Vettel try and get a run on Räikkönen? So at the end of lap 1 of 65 here in Spain, it's Räikkönen who leads. Vettel second, Alonso third, Hülkenberg fourth, Giovinazzi fifth, Hamilton sixth, Sainz seventh, and Hartley running out the top 8. Looks like Hamilton's trying to go for a lunge down the inside of Antonio Giovinazzi. Is Vettel going to make the move on Räikkönen? Räikkönen goes defensive and keeps hold of the lead for now. As down the inside goes Lewis Hamilton in the Etihad, and he takes the place up into P5. Goes Lewis Hamilton, gets the move done on Antonio Giovinazzi. Is up into 8th place, goes Charles Leclerc, getting the move done on Brendan Hartley. In fact, has somebody dropped back a bit because no, they hasn't. It doesn't look like it, in fact, so I do apologise about that. That was just me being me again. But that's that really at this stage of the race. Sainz now trying to get on terms with Giovinazzi as best as possible now. There's meantime the top two try and break away from Fernando Alonso at this stage. Vettel pretty much using Räikkönen to get away from Alonso at this stage as they now go down the hill towards turn 6 and 7 on the track. Vettel doing everything he can to get hold of Kimi Räikkönen in this race now as they go through turn 6 and 7. And they'll now go up towards turn 8 on the track now then. And as a result of the revised results, it has meant so far in this season we've had 4 different winners as a result. Could it be a 5th with Räikkönen up in the lead? As now Vettel in the slipstream now then of Kimi Räikkönen, unable to make the move that time around. Maybe the Ferrari's got a little bit of an advantage compared to the Mercedes engine in the back of the EMR at this stage, as Hamilton's now all over the backside of Hülkenberg at this stage. Sainz still trying to find a way through on Giovinazzi as best as possible, as Grosjean's busy fending off from Valtteri Bottas in front of him at this stage as they now go through the final few corners on the track. Vettel trying to get back on turns with Kimi Räikkönen as they go through the final corner and onto the pitch straight we go. Will Vettel try and get the move done on Räikkönen? So on lap 3 of 65, Räikkönen setting the fastest lap of the race now, in fact, a 1:35.516 in the Suomi. Vettel getting in the slipstream, but not close enough to make an attack. As meantime, Hamilton now down the inside of Nico Hülkenberg. Will he get the move done on the EMR? Down to the inside, he will go, and he takes the place. Hamilton up into 4th place. As a result, Sainz unable to make the move done on Giovinazzi at this stage of the race. As meantime, down the inside goes Stoffel Vandoorne on Brendan Hartley. Hartley's just going backwards at the moment. You can tell, definitely show his pace is showing in this race as Vandoorne now's up to 12th. He's now down to 13th after qualifying 9th on the grid now then. Now Ricciardo wants a piece of the action if he can, as Ocon's all over the backside of another monster. This time it's Oliver Rowland as he tries to take 17th from him at this stage. Out goes Pascal Wehrlein. What has happened to Pascal? Whereabouts is he on the track? And whereabouts is Wehrlein? And whereabouts is he? And there it is. It's a blown engine for Pascal Wehrlein. Pascal Wehrlein out of the Grand Prix, and we're down to 21 runners here in Spain. Wehrlein calling it a day thanks to an engine failure on lap number 3 of 65. And that's the end of his Grand Prix. As confirmation there that Pascal Wehrlein is out of the Grand Prix. Let's quickly check out the fuel loads now then, as people have calmed down a bit. 18.3 for Räikkönen, 19.4 for Vettel, 21.4, 25.4, 18.4, 23.4, 25.4, 22.4, 17.4, sorry, 18.4, 24.4, 23.4, 17.4, 18.4, 20.4, 25.4, 24.3, 25.4, 21.3, 17.4, 18.4, and we never knew with Wehrlein because he retired thanks to an engine failure. So, as we go through the right-hander now then, Räikkönen looking like he's carrying a little bit less than what Vettel has at the moment, around 1.1 litres less than Sebastian at the moment as they go through the final corner. Vettel doing whatever he can to reel in Kimi Räikkönen, but Räikkönen starting to get away a little bit at this stage, taking advantage of his light fuel load and maybe the power of the Ferrari engine in the back of that Suomi at this stage, which is keeping him in front of Vettel at the moment in this race. Alonso not close enough at the moment to attack Vettel, nor is Hamilton on his teammate as he pulls away a bit now from Hülkenberg. Is up into 6th place goes Carlos Sainz Jr. He gets the move done on Antonio Giovinazzi. So up to 6th place goes Carlos Sainz Jr. So double celebrations for the Spanish fans as Sainz is up into 6th place, as Leclerc now going defensive on Pérez. Grosjean doing a good job still keeping back Bottas at this stage now then, as we ride on board with Sergio Pérez as he goes through the right-hander doing whatever he can to get by on Charles Leclerc. And now up towards turn 4. Is he able to get him in towards turn 4? It doesn't look like he's close enough to make a pass on Leclerc at this stage. As we now go through these corners down, and as Verstappen now attacks Hartley as he goes further backwards because Ricciardo has now passed him. As Ocon now looks to the inside of Ollie Rowland. Can he get the move done? No, Rowland holding it around the outside. So clearly saying that there's plenty of grip around the outside through into there. And keeps in front of Ocon for the time being at this stage. As meantime now Pérez still trying to pile the pressure on the shadow of Charles Leclerc in front. At this stage of the race, Giovinazzi now starting to drop back from Sainz and maybe falling into the clutches of Leclerc and Bottas very soon in this race as they go through the right-hander now, then down towards the back straight towards the left-hander on the track. As now Bottas now down the inside of Charles Leclerc. Would he get the move done on the Monegasque driver? And he does. Into the points does go Sergio Pérez as he now goes up into 8th place now then. Does Sergio Pérez now then. So meantime now then Räikkönen continuing to get away as now Alonso starting to close in a bit now on Sebastian Vettel, but still not within slipstream range of the EMR as of yet as they go down the pit straight. As we now start lap 5 of 65 in this Grand Prix, 61 laps remaining in the race now then. So still obviously a long way to go. We still need to get to the pit stop stages of the Grand Prix yet as the sparks continue to fly out the back of Kimi Räikkönen's car as they go through the first few corners on the track. And now through turn 2 and around turn 3 we go. And Räikkönen in front at this stage now then, having a little bit of a gap in front of Sebastian Vettel at the moment in this race. And meantime now then Pérez all over the backside of Antonio Giovinazzi now then as he tries to grab 7th from the Italian. Giovinazzi going defensive and rightfully so, keeping hold of 7th place for the moment as Bottas is still trying to grab hold of Romain Grosjean in this race now then as I go down through the left-hander. Räikkönen still leading the way at the moment, having a little bit of a gap now between himself and Sebastian Vettel. Vettel currently 2nd at the moment, still unable to keep up with the Suomi as Alonso now starting to close in now on the German, and Hamilton hasn't got the pace at the moment to match Fernando at this stage of the race. So now going through the left and right hand, and Pérez really trying to find a way through on Antonio Giovinazzi, the man currently lining in 2nd in the Drivers' Championship. And El Dorado won't be surprised if he drops back, but it would, they'd say, I think they'll think at the same time they'll think it would still be nice if he keeps hold of that position by the end of it. Meantime, Grosjean and Bottas now start to close up on Charles Leclerc for P9. So that's that at the moment as now Pérez goes through the right hander trying to get hold of Giovinazzi as best as possible as he tries to grab P7 from the Bud Light line, heading in towards the final few corners on the track. Then we go. And Bottas and Pérez, sorry, not Bottas. Pérez now right in the slipstream of Giovinazzi as we go through the final corner and onto the pit straight we go. And let's see what Checo is able to do. Will he be able to get Giovinazzi down the pit straight? He looks to the inside. Can he get the move done on Antonio Giovinazzi? Side by side to go in towards turns 1, 2 and 3 on the track. Now they side by side down the pit straight. Is it going to be enough for Pérez to get the move done on Giovinazzi down the inside into turn 1? And he does. Pérez up into 7th place, getting the move done on Giovinazzi. Leclerc there, as you just saw in the background, went a tad bit defensive there, trying to keep back Romain Grosjean in this race as Bottas is now starting to drop back a bit from the pair of them now then as they just filtered their way through the right-hander at the moment as Verstappen takes the place of Hartley, so he's up into 14th. Hartley continuing to drop back at this stage as Magnussen up to 17th, holding up a train of cars that are there at this stage at the moment. As Jones and Dixon look to be fighting amongst themselves at the back of the field at the moment. Ocon still stuck behind the Roland, who clearly has slower pace compared to the Martini. Whether that's down to power or down to the driver, I'm not sure. But who knows really at this stage how much pace the Martini has lost as a result of losing the amount of power they had from South Africa. So it's still a bit of a question on how quick they are still at the moment, and so far they seem to be languishing in the midfield as a result. And at the moment now then we go back to the front of the field. Fernando still trying everything he can to close up the gap between himself and Vettel, and even Hamilton is being dragged along now as a result as we go up towards the final 2 corners. And we'll see in a little bit what the gap is like between Alonso and Vettel. Let me just quickly check on other battles that are happening around the track. Grosjean still struggling to find a way through on Leclerc at this stage, but let's see quickly now then what the gap is like between Alonso and Vettel now then as well on lap 7 of 65 here in Spain. So we have 59 laps remaining in the Grand Prix as it's 0.9 seconds between Vettel and Alonso at the present moment. It looks to be a 2-stop race, I believe. I could be wrong, but it does look to be that all of them are planning to do the same strategy, which I believe is a 2-stop round here in Spain, despite the fact that it is wet. It all comes down to fuel, really, rather than tyres now in this Grand Prix. But they obviously do have the option of changing the tyres if they want to when they're making that stop. And I believe that the majority of the teams choose to do that anyway. As now we go up towards the left-hander. Alonso still not close enough to the backside of Vettel at the moment, and Grosjean takes ninth from Leclerc. Up into ninth place goes Romain Grosjean in the Bud Light Line Motorsport car, and now Grosjean's trying to get hold of his teammate Antonio Giovinazzi for the final points place, but Leclerc's still sticking with him, and now even Bottas fancies his chances on Leclerc in front now. Then as we head down towards the left-hander, Leclerc right on the prow of Romain Grosjean as we go through towards turn 6 and 7 on the track. Meantime, Ricciardo takes 12th from Vandoorne, so up to 12th place goes Daniel Ricciardo, and now Verstappen starting to close in on Vandoorne now then, as Ocon finally gets a move done on Roland. In fact, Roland's also lost the place to Dixon, so now Roland drops down to 20th, and Ocon moves up to 18th, and Dixon up to 19th, and now Ocon sets his sights on Magnussen, who's recovering after qualifying last yesterday. Appeared to be struggling in the wet conditions, and, well, that was that really. Pretty much ruined his weekend to start off with. Meantime, now then, Hülkenberg in 5th place, but it looks like that Sainz and Pérez might have some more pace. Pérez starting to get into the slipstream of Carlos Sainz Jr. as we now go through the second to last corner, and up towards the final corner we go. Pérez trying to get into the slipstream of Sainz in front as we head down the pit straight now then. And we'll head up towards turns 1, 2 and 3 on the track. Meantime, Fernando Hamilton's up to second as he's taken both of them unseen by the cameras. Hamilton up into second place. He takes both Alonso and Vettel. I wonder if he did something similar to what Glyle did in the sprint race a little earlier, where he went 3 wide into turn 9 and got the place done. So Hamilton now then up into second place as now Alonso tries to grab third from the German in front of him. Vettel trying to grab back second if he can off Lewis Hamilton. Vettel and Hamilton going defensive, as you can see there, in towards turn 1 as he now go through in towards these corners now then. Alonso right onto the prow of Sebastian Vettel now then as I go through the right-hander, and there you can see there in the background his Verline-stricken car from a little earlier on. As now they go through the right-hander, will Alonso try and get the place of Sebastian Vettel in towards turn 4 now then. Up towards the right-hander we go, and not close enough to make a pounce into that corner as Sainz going defensive because Pérez is putting the pressure now on him for P5 in this race, for P6 in this race, and Giovinazzi still got a comfortable gap a little bit in front of Giovinazzi. Bottas still struggling to find a way through on Charles Leclerc at the moment as they fight out for P10 at the moment in this race, as now they go through the left-hander on the track now then as Sainz and Pérez fight it out for P6 now as I go through turn 6 and 7 on the track, as we'll go up towards the right-hander now then. As meantime now, look at Alonso all over the backside of Sebastian Vettel. Will he be able to get the job done now then as I go up towards the left-hander? Vettel goes defensive, and rightfully so, keeping hold of that place for the time being. As now down the inside goes Pérez on Sainz, and he gets the move done. Pérez up into 6th place. Meanwhile, his teammate on the other shadow still struggling to find a way through on the Leclerc. Like Leclerc, they went a little bit defensive towards turn 9. Grosjean getting that tad bit closer to teammate Giovinazzi at this stage. Now then, Vettel starting to drop back from Hamilton at the moment in this race as we go up towards the final corner now then. Will Alonso get the job done on Sebastian Vettel as they go down the pit straight towards the first few corners on the track? Alonso getting into the slipstream now then. He tucks up. Will he try and go for the move as I go down the pit straight? Alonso tucks up into his slipstream. Will he try and go for the lunge? And it looks like he's not going to even try it, but now he does a dummy down the pit straight. Caught Vettel napping down the inside, and he gets the move done. Alonso up into 3rd place, getting the move done on Sebastian Vettel, and now both Etihads are now onto the podium places, and now the pair then trying to catch up onto race leader Kimi Räikkönen, who's got a bit of a gap now in front of the rest of the pack at the moment as he looks to try and get his 2nd career victory in IFMC, as he now head down towards the left-hander now then on the track. And Räikkönen now they're just getting around the corner, using a lot of curb there on the outside as he heads down the hill towards those corners now. Then meantime, Vettel still keeping up with Alonso at this stage now then, as they'll now head down towards turn 6 and 7. Vettel has to try and break a little bit later than Alonso if he can to stay in touch with the Spaniard if he wants to try and get back up into 3rd place now. Then we ride on board with the German as he just tippy toes round turn 8 now. Then can he get into the slipstream now? Then Fernando Alonso as he head down the back straight towards turn 9 on the track now. Then Vettel in the slipstream, but not close enough to make a pounce that time around as they go through the left-hander. Vettel not giving up at the moment on Fernando Alonso as they now go through the final 3 corners on the track. As meantime, Hülkenberg now being harried by Sergio Pérez behind him at the moment. Pérez now starting to put the pressure on Nico Hülkenberg at this stage. Grosjean still not close enough to make a pass on Giovinazzi. Bottas still stuck behind Charles Leclerc's shadow in the battle for 10th place between the pair of them. Verstappen getting closer to Vandoorne. And meantime, we've got a battle for 17th broom between Ocon and Magnussen at the back of the field. As now we go down the pit straight now. Then Vettel not close enough to make a pass on Alonso, so he has to tuck back for now as they go through the first few corners on the track. And now through the right-hander we will go. Vettel now then trying to see if he can try and find a weakness in the corners with Fernando Alonso, because he's still sticking with him at the moment in this race as they go up towards turn 4 on the track. Not close enough to make a pass. Same with Pérez on Hülkenberg at this stage. Now then Sainz looking quite lonely behind them at this stage. Grosjean trying to have a look. It's now down the inside goes Valtteri Bottas on Charles Leclerc. Down the inside he goes. Will he get the move done? Leclerc trying to hang in around the outside of the fin as they go through turn 4 down towards turn 5. They're still side by side, but it looks like Bottas has the edge. He shuts the door and takes the move. Bottas up into 10th place, getting the move done on Charles Leclerc, and now into the top 10 goes the Finn. And now Ricciardo will try and close up onto his fellow Etihad employee Charles Leclerc in front of him, and maybe even a future teammate, who knows, because as we know Ricciardo is moving to Etihad next season in place of Alonso, who is making a full-time debut in IFMC IndyCar after this season. So now up towards the left-hander we will go. Vettel trying to break that a little bit later than what Alonso did in front, as they now just flick the car in. And now up towards the final 3 corners. Vettel trying everything he can to dispose of the championship leader in front, Fernando Alonso, as they now head through these corners now. Then up towards the final 2 corners goes Vettel and Alonso now then, as we will now go up towards the final corner. And onto the pit straight we go now then. Vettel again not close enough. It looked like he might have had a little bit of understeer through there as well. So it looked like it for now. As meantime now Pérez in the slipstream of Nico Hülkenberg. Would he grab 5th place from Nico now as head down the pit straight? He gets into the slipstream of the EMR driver. Hülkenberg goes defensive and could tell that the pressure's there for Pérez, and rightfully so, keeps hold of that place as the 2 Borderline Motorsports go side by side with each other down towards turn 1. Will Grosjean get the place? And he can. Up into 8th place goes Grosjean as Leclerc tries to get back through on Bottas now then, as going through turn 2, unable to do so. Bottas keeps hold of him, but Grosjean now into the points and up into 8th place at the expense of teammate Antonio Giovinazzi. As now we will go up towards turn 4 on the track. Giovinazzi not giving up, but not close enough to make a pass. Grosjean still going defensive either way though. As meantime now Leclerc under pressure from Daniel Ricciardo's GRM as he makes his way through the field after only qualifying 17th yesterday. So Räikkönen still with a consistent lead at the front, but I wouldn't be surprised if Hamilton's starting to chop out some of that gap, as he's got a bit of a gap between himself and teammate Fernando Alonso now then. There's Räikkönen only just going through that corner you just saw there, as now Hamilton through the right-hander we will go, as we're now on lap 11 of 65 here in Spain. So we now have specifically 55 laps remaining in the Grand Prix, and we still are yet to have the pit stop rounds to go. It might even be a one-stop race yet, we don't know. Räikkönen running 7 litres lighter than what Hamilton is at this stage, so something to bear in mind. Pérez still stuck behind Nico Hülkenberg. Hülkenberg looked like he again defended going into turn 9 there. As now we go through the final few corners on the track, then Pérez really trying to get the move done on Sebastian Vettel. In towards the final corner and onto the pit straight will go Sergio Pérez as they head down the pit straight. Will Pérez get the move done? He tucks into his slipstream now then. He looks to the inside. Will Pérez get the move done on Sebastian Vettel as we head towards the first few corners on the track? Side by side go the pair of them now then, as head down towards turn 1 on the track. Will Pérez get the move done? Break that a little bit later than Hülkenberg, and he does. Up into 5th place goes Sergio Pérez, getting the move done on Nico Hülkenberg. And up into P5 goes Checo there then. As in the meantime, Ricciardo has taken 11 from Leclerc, so up to P11 goes Daniel Ricciardo as he's now all over the backside of Valtteri Bottas for P10. As they just go through turn 5 now then on the track. Sorry, turn 3 I should say. Going through that right-hander and up towards Turn 4 now, then we go, and as you can see now, then we go in towards turn 4 on the track, and he didn't try an attempt to overtake on Bottas that time around, as now up towards the left-hander we will go, as the spray continues to come off the back of the cars now then, showing no signs of easing anytime soon. Ocon had a little go there at Magnussen into that right-hander, but Magnussen shut the door on him there. Roland now down to 21st there then, as he gets a little bit of aquaplaning, but manages to correct it before he even tries to go off there. So that's that then for as far as Ollie Rowland is concerned. Vettel still keeping up with Alonso, but just unable to find a way through on him at the moment, as Pérez will now try and close up. Pérez at the moment finding himself in an EMR sandwich at the moment in this Grand Prix. So Pérez clearly suited to this car more than what Bottas is, and Pérez seeming so far to have the better season compared to Valtteri Bottas so far in Season 4. But that could still change as anything happens in Grand Prix racing, and it usually does, as now Pérez goes out of the final corner and onto the pit straight we will go. And now heading down towards the first few corners on the track then. Vettel still keeping up with Alonso, but still unable to make the move, able to get him at this stage as we head down towards the first few corners on the track. Through turn 1 we go, and then into turn 2. And Pérez now then currently finding himself in 5th place, trying to pressurise Vettel in front of him at the moment as they go out of that right-hander now then, and up towards the next corner on the track, which will be the right-hander, so which is turn 4 of course, and Hülkenberg starting to lose time a bit now to Pérez, as meantime Ricciardo has taken 10th from Bottas. Up to P10 goes Daniel Ricciardo in the GRM, so into the top 10 goes the Australian, as Vandoorne now starts to close in on former teammate Charles Leclerc, and even Verstappen want to try and get close to that battle if he can. And so that's that really. If you've only just joined us, we are now on lap 13 of 65 in this Grand Prix, and this is what the leaderboard currently looks like. It's Räikkönen who leads, from Hamilton in 2nd, Alonso 3rd, Vettel 4th, Pérez in 5th, Hülkenberg in 6th with Sainz 7th, Grosjean 8th, and then it's Giovinazzi 9th, Ricciardo 10th, Bottas 11th, Leclerc in 12th, Vandoorne 13th, Verstappen 14th, Hartley 15th, Verne 16th, Magnussen 17th, Ocon close behind in 18th, Dixon 19th, Jones 20th, Roland in 21st. The only retirement being Pascal Wehrlein due to an engine failure. Will Ocon go for the move down the inside of Kevin Magnussen in towards this left-hander? Not close enough to make the move that time around as they go through the section of corners. And now as we go through towards the first few corners on the track, I'll be interested to see what the gap is like between Räikkönen and Hamilton. It is 2.5 seconds between the top two at the moment, so that's how it currently stands, at 2.2 between Hamilton and Alonso at the moment as they go through turn 3 on the track, as they tippy-toe through the 3rd corner now then on the track. Is now Grosjean currently getting away now from Giovinazzi, as Ricciardo starting to close him in now for P9 as they go through the right-hander now then on the track, heading down towards turn 4. And Ricciardo doing everything in his power to get by, as meantime Vandoorne continuing to close in onto Charles Leclerc in front of him at the moment, as well, that's currently that at this stage now then. Meantime, looks like Hamilton's getting closer to the back of Räikkönen at this stage, but not by too much. He's not getting onto the fin as much as he would like to at this stage. Räikkönen clearly doing a good job in the wet conditions at the moment as he goes up towards turn 9 now then for the 14th time today, and he'll be in around about 5 laps time making his first pit stop of the afternoon. It looks like Räikkönen's going for the 2-stop. Whether the Etihad are doing the same thing, because Hamilton's running around about 7 litres more than what Räikkönen is, we don't know. Whether they're running a little bit of a heavier fuel load before their first of 2 stops, I don't know. Whether they are doing the 1 stop, we will wait and see, as now Räikkönen comes out of the final corner. Let's see what the gap is like this time around between the top 2 of Hamilton and Räikkönen now as they head down towards the first few corners on the track. And in towards turn 1 we go, and the gap between them is now, let's have a look, 2.1 seconds. So Hamilton has took out, I think, around about 4 tenths out of Räikkönen's lead there. So Hamilton is gaining to Kimi Räikkönen at this stage, as Pérez is now starting to gain onto Sebastian Vettel for P4 now then in the Grand Prix. Pérez starting to get his foot down in 5th place. Meantime, Ricciardo all over the backside there. Giovinazzi going defensive from Ricciardo there. Will Ricciardo try and get a run on him up towards turn 4 now. Then Bottas looking for any opportunity to pounce upon with these two now. Then round for turn 4 we go, and up towards turn 5. And let's see what Ricciardo can do now then. Unable to make the move stick that time around. Not close enough to make a pass on Giovinazzi that time around. Giovinazzi keeping hold of him for the time being now then. As they go through the left and right-hander on the track, as Räikkönen now then goes through the right-hander. And now heading down the back straight towards turn 9 on the track now then, as he continues to lead the race out in front of this stage, as he now goes up towards the final 3 corners on the track. And at the moment, Räikkönen still leading the race with Hamilton 2nd, Alonso 3rd, Vettel 4th, Pérez in 5th, with Hülkenberg 6th, Sainz 7th, and Grosjean rounding out the top 8 at this stage. And Ricciardo has got Giovinazzi, finally gets the move done at turn 9. Ricciardo up into 9th place, getting the move done there as a result. And now Bottas is all over the backside of Giovinazzi, trying to pounce on to get into the top 10 if he can. And he'll be able to do that as best as possible. Vandoorne still not close enough to the backside there of Charles Leclerc. And at this stage at the moment, as they go down the pit straight now then, will Bottas get the move done on Antonio Giovinazzi? He gets into his slipstream now then, he looks to the inside. Will Bottas get the move done on Antonio Giovinazzi? Giovinazzi trying to shut the door on him there to go through in towards turn 1, but it doesn't work. Down the inside goes Bottas, and he goes through then up into 10th place goes Valtteri Bottas in the Eldorado there then. So up into P10 goes the Eldorado. As meantime, Räikkönen still in the race, but Hamilton continuing to close him down, as Hamilton wants to get the victory if he can become the first man to get 2 victories this season and close back into Alonso in the Drivers' Championship, as now they go through turn 6 and 7 on the track. And now just getting the car turned in through the right-hander, using a lot of curb on the outside. And now up towards turn 9 we will go. And let's see if Hamilton can get closer to the back of Kimi Räikkönen now then. We'll have a look at what the gap looks like after this stage of the race, as now through the right-hander goes Lewis Hamilton. And we'll have a look and quickly see what the gap is like between Räikkönen and Hamilton, as they'll soon be starting lap 17 of 65 here in Catalonia. And we've just gone past the 3:30 mark. We're 26 minutes away from the 4 o'clock mark now then, as we head down the pit straight. And let's see what the gap is like between Räikkönen and Hamilton at this stage, as we go through the first few corners of the track now then. So up towards turn 1 we will go, and the gap is 1.8 seconds. That's what the gap currently stands at this station. From the last time we checked on these guys, Hamilton has taken only 3/10 out of him that time out of him at this point, as Vettel looks like he's started to get away a little bit now from Sergio Pérez. Pérez unable to respond at this stage as he goes through the right-hander. And at the moment, Bottas trying to close back into Ricciardo to see if he can try and grab 9th, as now Giovinazzi will come under threat from Leclerc and Vandoorne, who's now getting close to the backside of him, and even Verstappen getting close behind as well, as they go up towards the right-hander now then. We go up towards turn 4 on the track, as the spray continues to come off the back of the cars now then. Through the right-hander we go, and we will now come up towards the turn 5 now then. Through the left-hander he goes now then, and he'll head down the hill towards turn 6 and 7 on the track. So be aware of that now then, as they go towards turn 6 and 7. Vandoorne trying to get close to the backside of Leclerc if he can. And not really much going on in the top here. Everybody seems to have spread themselves out just at this moment. It's only down in the midfield where most of the battles seem to be happening, as Leclerc tries to close it in onto Giovinazzi in front of him at this stage, as they now go up towards turn 9, trying to break as late as possible compared to the Italian, as they just go through the left-hander now then, up towards the through the third to last corner we go now then, and out of the corner heading up towards the second to last corner, and then it will turn into the final corner on the racetrack now then. Through we go, up towards the final corner goes Charles Leclerc, and let's see if he's able to close up now then as they head down the pit straight. And let's see what the gap is like between Giovinazzi and Leclerc. Remember, Giovinazzi took Leclerc's space at BLLM Motorsport after the situation that happened to him from the San Marino Grand Prix of last season when it was round 5. 0.7 seconds is the gap between Giovinazzi and Leclerc, and coincidentally it's also 0.7 between Leclerc and Vandoorne. So pretty much all three of them are separated by the same pace, it seems, at the moment. All three of these guys separated by 1.4 seconds at this stage. Verstappen taking advantage of starting to close in again onto Stoffel Vandoorne a little bit there now then. And we didn't check what the gap was like between Räikkönen and Hamilton that time around as they go through turn 6 and 7 on the track. And now going up towards turn 8 we will go. And Räikkönen currently leading the race out in front of the moment. Hamilton second, and Alonso currently third behind him at this stage, as now up towards the left-hander we will go. And so now out of the corner, getting as close to the line as possible, but not going over it too much, otherwise you will spin. And especially in these conditions, it's going to be a little bit more trickier around here, as now through towards the final 3 corners. And will Kimi Räikkönen be pitting on the next lap or the lap after? Let's see, because his fuel is quite down at the moment. Let's have a look as he goes through the final corner. Is Kimi pitting at the end of lap 19 as he heads down the pit straight? Let's have a look. And yes, he is. Raikkonen is pitting this lap. The race leader, Kimi Räikkönen, is pitting at the end of lap 19 as the El Dorado mechanics are out in the pit lane for Sergio Pérez. So Pérez is in, hoping to get the jump on Sebastian Vettel if he can, as the El Dorado mechanics wait to put on a fresh set of wet weather tyres and some fuel as well. And here we go then as he pulls into his box. And a quick wipe of the visor to get rid of any standing water that's on his visor at the moment. I mean, you do have tear-off strips, let's not forget. But still, that doesn't mean to say they're prone to being fogged up. As let's see now then, and it is an 11.6 second stop. No hold-ups for Pérez, and it looks like that is the monster mechanics that have gone into the pit lane for Brendon Hartley. So Hartley into the pits for his first stop of the afternoon, as it looks like some more mechanics right in front down there. Looks like maybe Mars mechanics are waiting, or it could be Shadow mechanics. I think it's actually Shadow mechanics because they are... is it Shadow mechanics? No, it is Mars mechanics. Scott Dixon into the pits along with fellow Kiwi Brendon Hartley. And Hartley doing his stop at the moment as the track continues to fog up in this race at the moment, as Hartley finishes off his pit stop, as will Scott Dixon, who's currently into the pits at the moment in this race. And so he's being served, and Räikkönen coming around turn 8, as we know he will be pitting this lap. It will give Hamilton the lead of the race, and it will make it an Etihad 1-2. Whether Hamilton will be able to leapfrog him with the amount of laps he's got left before he makes his pit stop, we'll wait and see. Remember, Hamilton was closing in before Räikkönen was about to make this pit stop, so whether Räikkönen will still be leading the race after Hamilton pits, we'll wait and see. And Räikkönen's only hope is that he doesn't come out in traffic, as now he goes up towards the second to last corner now then, as he will now pull into his box. So into the pits comes Kimi Räikkönen from the lead of the Grand Prix. Hamilton will take the lead temporarily in the Etihad now then, as the Suomi mechanics are already in the pit lane for Kimi Räikkönen, as he flicks on the pit limiter now then, as the EMR mechanics are getting ready for either Hülkenberg or Vettel. I would probably think it might be Hülkenberg maybe, or probably it could be Vettel, I'm not sure, as Kimi's now being served, and it is Nico Hülkenberg that is in for EMRs. The BLLM Motorsport mechanics are ready for Romain Grosjean, so he's into the pits, as Räikkönen's being served. And the GOM mechanics look to be ready for Daniel Ricciardo, I believe that is, in front of Räikkönen. But Räikkönen now finishes his top, and it is Daniel Ricciardo, as you can see on the top of your screen there. So Daniel Ricciardo is in the pits from 10th place. Hülkenberg in, just to confirm, and also Grosjean is in as well for BLLM Motorsport. And where is Kimi going to rejoin then after this pit stop? He comes out of the pit box as he flicks off the pit limiter, and he rejoins in 10th, and he has some clear track in front of him, as Verstappen's just going around turn 3, the guy who's in front of him in 9th place temporarily. He rejoins in front of Jean-Éric Vergne, who's currently 11th, as meantime Ocon still stuck behind Magnussen, who went very defensive into that corner. Pérez currently 14th at this stage and probably stuck behind. That will not help him in terms of trying to leapfrog Vettel. Hülkenberg rejoins in 15th, still behind Pérez. Grosjean 16th in the end, and Ricciardo rejoins in 17th again, and closing up now to the back of Romain Grosjean to try and get that final points place off the veteran if he can. Ed Jones is in for Mars Grand Prix, and Scott Dixon should get back ahead of him as a result. But Hamilton will be out for about 7 to 8 laps before he makes his pit stop. Alonso probably in around about 3 laps, we see him coming into the pit. Sebastian Vettel in the EMR is pitting at the end of this lap in the hopes of staying in front of Sergio Pérez. Judging from the traffic that's in front of him, it's all going according to plan for Vettel to stay in front of Pérez at the end of this pit stop, as he now just goes through the second to last corner. He'll then go into his pit lane, and there he goes. And into the pits comes Sebastian Vettel from the lead of the Grand Prix now then. Sorry, not the lead of the Grand Prix, third in the race now then. Temporarily third, as his EMR mechanics are waiting for him to serve him, as he now pulls into his box. And let's see how quick the stop's going to be then for EMR, as a quick wipe on the visor there for Sebastian Vettel. And let's see where he's going to be joined then. Where is Pérez on the track in the Dorado? We will wait and see. It's a 10.2 second stop for Sebastian Vettel. Räikkönen should go through pretty cleanly there with no issues. Vettel was nowhere near him anyway. Pérez is coming around the final corner, and Vettel should do enough to stay in front. And as he trundles down pit lane, he flicks off the pit limiter. And there you go. In fact, there is Pérez now then, but Vettel has managed to stay in front as a result. And Vettel stays in the position, but Pérez has caught up a little bit to Vettel, but crucially Vettel stays in front of Pérez after the pit stop. So that's that really, as Hülkenberg still stuck behind that set of traffic that's behind him at this stage. So now it is an Etihad 1-2. I wouldn't be surprised if on the next lap Alonso will be making his first of 2 stops of the Grand Prix, as he now heads down towards the left-hander on the track. As Carlos Sainz, the other Spanish driver, is currently occupying 3rd place at the moment in the shadow. So that's that really, as now he just goes around the left-hander on the track as he just come out of the corner. And now up towards the final 3 corners will go Carlos Sainz Jr. And he will now approach the last 2 corners. He'll be doing at least a couple of more, about 3 more laps before he makes his pit stop. Bottas, a few more for him, and for Giovinazzi, and for Leclerc. So Verstappen will be pitting at the end of this lap. I want to know, is Alonso pitting? As out goes Ed Jones in the Mars Grand Prix car with suspension failure. Ed Jones out of the race, and we're down to 20 runners. Mechanical problems have come back to haunt Mars Grand Prix, and Ed Jones out of the race, and we're down to 20 runners in this Spanish Grand Prix. And it looks like they're going to try and hoist him over the other side as Max Verstappen pits for his first stop of the afternoon. And Alonso, is he pitting? Yes, he is. Alonso is pitting at the end of this lap for his scheduled stop, as Hamilton will continue round. And Etihad are even coming up to a bit of traffic as Verstappen finishes off his pit stop in the Martini. Where is he going to come out? As he goes trundling down pit lane. And Verstappen is going to rejoin, let's see, as he will flick off the pit limiter. And Verstappen rejoins. Let's have a look where he will rejoin. He rejoins in 18th place behind Oliver Rowland, who is still yet to stop. So Verstappen doesn't need to worry about him at this stage. Is now Ocon now looking to the inside of Nico Hülkenberg and passing him a little earlier on. Ocon willing to not lose time to Kevin Magnussen and gets by on Hülkenberg, as Hülkenberg got stuck behind Magnussen. So the plan to try and get Ocon to be held up by Hülkenberg hasn't worked out for Magnussen, because he's now held up Hülkenberg to the point where Ocon's got back through, dived it down the inside into turn number 4 now. There's meantime Pérez is now stuck behind Jean-Eric Vergne, as there's now a car between himself and Sebastian Vettel. Vettel was able to pull away as a result of Vettel, unseen by the cameras, passing Vergne for P9. And now will Pérez get the move done on Jean-Eric Vergne as he goes down the inside of the Frenchman. Down the inside he goes. Has he got the place? And yes, he has. Up into P10 goes Sergio Pérez is into the pit. It's Fernando Alonso. Alonso is in for his scheduled stop. And let's see how quick the stop's going to be then for the Spaniard. And he finishes off his pit stop as Bottas. Where is the rest of the pack? As Räikkönen, there he is down the pit straight now then. Will Alonso actually get in front? It doesn't look like it. Räikkönen will be back in front of him after the pit stop, as Räikkönen disposes of Stoffel Vandoorne as he goes up into 6th place. Alonso comes out on the track, and there's Vettel in fact. Will Vettel actually leapfrog Alonso as they go out of pit lane? It's going to be close between the pair of them, but Alonso able to stay in front. So Alonso keeps out of 8th place, but Vettel a little bit closer now to the back of Fernando Alonso, and even Pérez is close as well, as he's now disposed of the traffic and now trying to close back into Sebastian Vettel if he can, as Kevin Magnussen is in. for his scheduled stop as there's a train of cars where Ricciardo is as he struggles to find a way through on Romain and Grosjean. Ocon looking to stay out to see if he can get the jump on Magnussen, but plus he has a lot more fuel in the tank, so a few more laps of fuel before he pits as Magnussen finishes off his pit stop. And where is he going to rejoin? Magnussen goes trundling down pit lane, and Magnussen is going to rejoin, let's see, as he'll flick off the pit limiter soon, which he does around about now, and Magnussen is going to rejoin in 20th, which is last at this stage, and even getting leapfrogged by Dixon, so that's not helped. Thanks to the battling with Ocon, Dixon has been able to leapfrog Magnussen, so a disaster there for K-Mag as he's now stuck behind the Monster Grand Prix car. As meantime, look at Vettel now in the slipstream of Fernando Alonso now, then as we go down towards turn 9 now, and he's trying to get close up to the Spaniard. Vettel now can set a podium, could be his now again in this race now then, as they go through the left-hander, trying to get up close to the backside of Fernando Alonso in this Grand Prix now then, as I go through the final few corners on the track. And they'll now go up towards the final 2 corners now then, so let's see now then. Into the second to last corner and up towards the final corner now then will go Sebastian Vettel, as he'll now head down the pit straight now then, and across the line will go Sebastian Vettel and Alonso. Will Vettel get close to the back of Alonso and possibly put a pass on the Etihad, or will the BMW engine keep him in front? As into the pits goes Charles Leclerc for Shadow Mercedes now then, and Vettel not close enough to the back of Alonso and has to stay behind him for the time being as they go through in towards the first few corners now then on the track. Is meantime, in fact, Räikkönen now coming up behind Giovinazzi, who's yet to make a stop, and he tries to ensure he stays in front of Hamilton, who's still got at least 2 more laps of fuel to burn in that Etihad now then, as he just goes through the right hander. I think Leclerc has just finished his pit stop for Shadow there, so that's that for him really now then, as I go down towards turn 9 on the track now then. Now, as you can see, Sebastian Vettel currently 8th at this stage and starting to fall back again to Fernando Alonso as Pérez tries to close him back in the Dorado as they just go through turns 6 and 7 on the track. And now in towards turn 8 we will go. And so now down the back straight we go now then, heading in towards turn 9. And Alonso now starting to get away from Vettel as he tries to dispose as much of the cars in front of him as possible. Vandoorne's pitting this lap, so Alonso doesn't need to worry about him. As Räikkönen is up to 4th, he's passed Giovinazzi, so up to P4 goes Kimi Räikkönen in the Suomi as he tries to ensure he stays in front of Lewis Hamilton by the time Hamilton makes his first stop of the afternoon. As now through the final corner onto the pit straight, as into the pits comes Carlos Sainz Jr. from 2nd place, as it looks like the AMP mechanics are waiting for Stoffel Vandoorne to make his stop, of course, because Pascal Wehrlein, of course, retired a little earlier on thanks to an engine failure. So he puts on a fresh set of tyres and fuel. And where is Sainz going to rejoin then after this pit stop? As there's Vandoorne being served. And where is Sainz going to rejoin then as he goes trundling down pit lane? And he'll flick off the pit limiter quite soon now then. And so let's see now then, as he goes out of the pit lane, and Sainz rejoins in 12th place in front of Ocon, but he's been leapfrogged, of course, by Daniel Ricciardo. So Sainz loses a load of places in the pit stops, and Ricciardo has now even got the jump on him there then, as has Romain Grosjean. So Sainz losing a heap of time in the pits as a result. As meantime, Bottas is scheduled for a pit stop, the man that's currently occupying 2nd place, and even his fellow compatriot Kimi Räikkönen is starting to hunt him down at this stage, as Bottas hopes to leapfrog Daniel Ricciardo if he can, as Ricciardo is coming up to traffic, so that could help Valtteri in a way try and leapfrog the Australian as they go up towards turn number 9 on the track. And Bottas currently 2nd place at this stage. Is Hamilton going to be pitting next lap on lap 26? Let's have a look, and yes he is. Lewis Hamilton is pitting on the end of lap 26 of the Grand Prix for his first of 2 scheduled stops now then, as the sparks come off the back of the Etihad car heading in towards the first few corners on the track now then, as Bottas now goes in. Räikkönen up to 2nd place as a result, as he can try and close down that gap onto Lewis Hamilton if he can, if he wants to go on and win his 2nd career victory, and Suomi's 2nd victory in IFMC as well, as Bottas is in for his first of 2 scheduled stops. Can he leapfrog Daniel Ricciardo in the pits? as he puts on a fresh set of tyres and fuel. It will put Alonso back onto the podium, I would think, unless Giovinazzi's still out there on the track, which I believe he is. In fact, I could be wrong on that. But Bottas now then finishes off his pit stop. It's a 10.3 second stop from the Dorado mechanics, and let's see where he's going to rejoin then after this pit stop as he goes trundling down pit lane. And Bottas is going to rejoin in, let's have a look, as Verstappen has actually made a pit stop. In fact, Verstappen actually jumped Bottas, in fact, as they go side by side with each other, and Bottas is down to 13th. He's lost a heap of time in the pit. Ocon pitting this lap. Sainz still in front of Bottas, but he's lost a lot of time in the pit lane and finds himself down in 13th place. So while Shane was down inside, goes Sainz on Verne. So Sainz takes 10th place from Jean-Éric Vergne, who's scheduled to stop this lap anyway. As now going through the left-hander we go. But that's a lot of time. And contact between Bottas and Verstappen there. Bottas and Verstappen have hit each other. Let's see what happened. Did it involve Verstappen in any way, shape or form? Verstappen, let's have a look. So Verstappen in the slipstream of Valtteri Bottas as they go up towards turn 4 on the track now then. And as you can see, very clumsy there, as you can see from Verstappen there. I think a little bit too eager, just like in the Formula 1 race a little bit earlier on in real life. So that's going to have to be investigated for sure, that contact between Bottas and Verstappen. And they're both trying to turn the other way as best as they can. And Bottas, and oh, that's a bit awkward there from Verstappen there. And he got a little bit of a helping hand there from Hartley, who pointed him back the other direction there. And that's a little bit clumsy there, Bottas being in the middle of the track. And, well, as that, Bottas able to continue as race leader. Lewis Hamilton is in the pits, but Räikkönen's already around the final corner. So Hamilton finishes his stop. Räikkönen should be back in the lead as a result. And let's find him. Where is Räikkönen? There he is. Räikkönen has passed pit straight, and Hamilton has lost a lot of time to Kimi Räikkönen, and even Alonso has now jumped Hamilton, and Will Vettel as well, going down the pit straight, and Vettel has even jumped Hamilton in the pits as well, as has Pérez. So Hamilton has lost a lot of time in the pits, and he rejoins in 5th place in front of Hülkenberg. So a lot of time lost for Lewis Hamilton in the pits, probably because of the tyre wear, probably. I think these wet tyres produce a bit of wear as well. And as a result, Vettel finds himself back onto the podium. Alonso up to 2nd, Pérez 4th, Hamilton down to 5th place, as Ricciardo now is in the points, as Giovinazzi is now in. So now Grosjean and Ricciardo find themselves in a points playing position, as Ricciardo now rejoins in 12th place. Ocon is into the pits for Martini, and let's see how quick the stop is going to be for him, as Giovinazzi rejoins in 12th, with Verstappen trying to find a way through on Brendon Hartley there. And let's see where Verne is going to, sorry, not, yeah, this is Verne, in fact. Verne is going to rejoin. Ocon also in as well, as the Verne rejoins in 17th, and Ocon looks like it's going to be 19th, I think, because Bottas is just coming down pit straight. And no, in fact, he rejoins 18th, just in front of Valtteri Bottas. So that's that for him. Bottas trying to find a way down the inside of Esteban Ocon, and easy as you like. Ocon wasn't anticipating he was there, and up into 18th goes Valtteri Bottas. But still, I bet Dorado are fuming with that contact with Max Verstappen, which is of course now under investigation as a result. So that's that for them, really. As meantime now then, as I go through the final few corners on the track. And now coming around the final corner and onto the pit straight we will go. And Alonso, in fact, he's now starting to gain onto Räikkönen. Look at that. He has set the fastest lap of the race, or 1:35.358. And he's now starting to gain on race leader Kimi Räikkönen in front of him at the moment. As now the first round of stops have been completed. 2 seconds is the gap between Räikkönen and Alonso in this Grand Prix. As now Alonso just goes through the right-hander. We're 5 minutes away from the 4 o'clock mark. And we are just a few laps away from the halfway stage of the Grand Prix. As meantime now, Hamilton all over the backside now. Sergio Pérez, as he tries to get him for 4th place in the Grand Prix. Pérez goes defensive. Hamilton doesn't think about flicking it to the inside, and Pérez holds him off for the time being. Pérez keeping hold of 4th place for the time being now, that as I go down towards the left-hander on the track. And now through the left-hander we will go. Hamilton now then getting out of the corner, and now we will go and approach turn 6 and 7 now then, and now through towards the left, and right-hander we go now then. Hamilton right into the slipstream now then of Sergio Pérez as we go through the right-hander now then. Both of them leaving Hülkenberg for dust behind at this stage. Hamilton now then in the slipstream of Pérez. He tucks up into his slipstream now then. He looks to the inside. Will Hamilton get the move done down the inside? And he does. Up into 4th place goes Lewis Hamilton in the Etihad. Up to P4 goes the Brit. As now, as you can see, Räikkönen now then. Let's see how much Alonso has gained onto him. Has Alonso gained a little bit? It looks like he's got a little bit closer than what he has last time around as they go down the pit straight. What is the gap now between Räikkönen and Alonso? As well on lap 29 and 65 in this Grand Prix now then. And we now have 37 laps remaining in this Spanish Grand Prix, heading down towards the first few corners on the track, and the gap between them is now 0.9 seconds. Alonso is taking 1.1 seconds out of Räikkönen's lead. He's taking a huge chunk out of Räikkönen's lead and could be within slipstream range by the end of this lap, or even at the halfway into this lap, maybe down the back straight. We will wait and see as we now go up towards the right-hander. Alonso fancying his chances of a home victory here in Barcelona. He's taken a home victory before, but that was back in Valencia in Season 2, as now Alonso looks to try and see if he can gain try and get a home win in Barcelona if he can, as he tucks up right onto the backside of Kimi Räikkönen now then, right into the slipstream of the Iceman now then, as I go through turn 8 now then on the track as they head down the back straight now then towards the left-hander. And let's see what Fernando can do as Räikkönen defends the inside, and rightfully so, keeping hold of the lead for the moment from Fernando Alonso as we now go through these remaining corners on track now then, as they put the car through the third to last corner now then, up towards the final 2 corners on the track. Then go the pair of them, and will Alonso get the move done on Kimi Räikkönen now then, as they head up towards the final corner now then, as they'll go onto the pit straight now then. Down the pit straight they go, and will Alonso get the move done on Kimi Räikkönen now then? Tucks up into the Finnish slipstream. He looks to the inside. Will Alonso get the move done on Kimi Räikkönen? Side by side to go now then in towards turn 1. Will Alonso get the move done down the inside? And he does. Fernando Alonso leads his home Grand Prix. Alonso leads in Spain, and Räikkönen's time at the front has come to an end, but will he try and keep up with Alonso if he can? No, he goes off! Räikkönen's off the track! He's aquaplaned off at turn number 3. Luckily, he didn't spin the car and lose another place. But, well, a mistake there from Kimi Räikkönen, as now Vettel and Hamilton start to close him up now for P2, as Hamilton's now on the backside of Sebastian Vettel. And they've said that they want to try and get a 1-2 legitimately now after getting the first 1-2 on a technicality in Australia. They want the first 1-2 legitimately now here in Spain if they can. And, well, with their pace it could happen, as now Hamilton's all over the backside of Sebastian Vettel as he tries to grab 3rd place from the German. As through towards turn 6 and 7 on the track we go now then, as the pair of them at the same time trying to close up onto Kimi Räikkönen. Pérez has lost a heap of time now to this battle. He's now dropped back from the pair of them as we go down the back straight. Hamilton tucks up into Vettel's slipstream, flicks back to the inside, does a dummy on Sebastian. Down the inside he goes and he takes it. Hamilton up into 3rd place, gets the move done on Sebastian Vettel, and up to P3 goes Hamilton. Next target is Kimi Räikkönen in the Suomi to try and make it an Etihad 1-2 if he can, as now through towards the final 3 corners on the track. Then we go. Hamilton now then fancying his chances on Kimi Räikkönen in front as they go around the final corner and onto the pit straight we will go. And now, as you can see, heading down the pit straight now then, will Hamilton get the move done on Kimi Räikkönen? And he's too far back to challenge that time around. What's the gap between him and Räikkönen anyway? It's 1.2 seconds. That's what the gap looks like as we're on lap 31 of 65 here in Spain. So we now have specifically, we now have 35 laps to go in this Grand Prix. 35 laps remaining, and we still need to get through the second round of stops before we can draw any form of conclusion yet in this Grand Prix. Meantime, Hülkenberg has now dropped back into the clutches of Carlos Sainz Jr. Sainz even wants a piece of his Renault teammate in real life, as Sainz now getting onto the backside of Nico Hülkenberg now then, heading down towards the right-hander, not close enough to make a pass on Hülkenberg that time around. Ricciardo now starting to drop back a bit now from Romain Grosjean. In fact, Sainz, unseen by the cameras as we were looking at the battle for the lead, has got up into 7th place. So he finds himself back into the point. And Sainz up into 7th place, getting by on Grosjean and Ricciardo respectively. Ricciardo now losing time to Grosjean as a result. As Leclerc now fending off from Vandoorne, who both of them are fighting it out now for 10th place at this stage, as Bottas tries to make his way through, battling with Vergne and Magnussen at this stage, and they are all getting close to Hartley as well in the monster car. Meantime, Sainz now in the slitching of Hülkenberg. He tucks up, we got a yellow flag. Why have we got a yellow? It's Räikkönen and Hamilton! Räikkönen and Hamilton have hit each other! Oh my goodness me! Räikkönen and Hamilton have hit each other! We've caught on to it at the last minute, unfortunately. And, well, who knows what on earth happened there as a result. And as a result, contact has been made. Unfortunately, we can't draw any conclusion on whose fault it was. But Räikkönen and Hamilton have taken each other out. Vettel and Pérez get back onto the podium places. Alonso now has quite a lead in front of his own fans. But, wow, disaster down at the left-hander. And, well, what can you say about that then? As the pair then tried to get it going. And, well, who knows really whose fault it was in that race. As now Hamilton tries to get the car moving. And Hamilton now then. And he spins again, being caught onto the wet curb. But Hamilton keeping the engine going, as has Kimi Räikkönen. So Hamilton now down to 11th. Verstappen right behind him now then. Räikkönen doing the same thing. Aquaplaning, but this time onto the grass rather onto the curb. And that's a bit clumsy there, Räikkönen, it must be said, blocking the way. And, well, I wouldn't be surprised if that one now gets investigated as a result now then. That will be investigated because he's now dropped Vergne down to 17th. And, well, a bit clumsy there from Kimi Räikkönen, it must be said. And, well, what can you say about that then, really, is he drops down to 18th now into the clutches of Scott Dixon now. Then as Sainz and Hülkenberg fight it out for 4th place, and they go side by side through towards the left-hander. The home crowd cheering on Sainz, unable to get the move done on Hülkenberg that time around now then. And it puts, in fact, Leclerc into the points as the result of all that happened in front. As now through towards turn 6 and 7 on the track, then we go. As we now go up towards the right-hander now then. Will Sainz get the move done on Nico Hülkenberg now then? He tucks up into his slipstream. He looks to the inside. Will Sainz get the move done? Down the inside he goes. And he does. Sainz up into 4th place. He gets the move done on Nico Hülkenberg. And the Spanish fans go mad for Carlos Sainz, who gets his car up to 4th place. Could Shadow even challenge for a podium here today? That is the big question. Could Sainz get 2 Spaniards onto the podium here in Spain? Because what a weekend it would be for the Spanish fans to turn out here, as he's now starting to get away from Hülkenberg. And does Sainz perhaps have pace to take it to try and grab his and Shadow's first ever podium in IFMC? We will wait and see. But let's see what the gap is like between Sainz and Pérez. It's 4.4 seconds between the pair of them. We will keep an eye on that gap as soon as possible. Now there's meantime Vandoorne all over the backside of Leclerc. Would he get the points paying position of Charles Leclerc? And reckon he chances Shadow getting a double points finish. Down the pit straight we go now, then in towards the first few corners on the track. Down the inside goes Vandoorne, and he finally gets the move done. Up into 8th place goes Stoffel Vandoorne, getting the move done on Charles Leclerc. And now Leclerc into the clutches of Antonio Giovinazzi's Bud Light Lime as they go through the right-hander on the track now, then as they head down towards the right-hander of turn 4 now, then Giovinazzi trying to have a look. Leclerc and even Vandoorne getting very defensive through turn 4 there, then as he all at the same time look like they'll be closing into Daniel Ricciardo's GRM quite soon now then. Alonso still having pretty much of a lead in front at this stage now then. Vettel looking quite lonely now in 2nd place. Pérez doing whatever he can to close him back in for that position now then as they go towards the left-hander. As out of the race goes Brendan Hartley. Brendan Hartley out of the race. What has happened to the Kiwi? It's his first retirement of the season, I believe. And oh my goodness me! A big contact there! He rips the wheel involving Ocon. And who was that? Vergne as well. A 3-car collision down at turn 1. And I'll be very interested to see how that one occurred. And well, We head down towards turn 1. Let's see now. So Ocon looking to the inside, and it looked like Vern was the culprit there. Vern does look like he aquaplaned down in towards turn 1, collected Ocon, who in turn just careered into the side of Hartley. Both Ocon and Hartley were just passengers in that. That is also going to have to be investigated for sure. That's 3 incidents for today. To be investigated. One between Verstappen and Bottas. One with Räikkönen, what he did at the exit of turn 9 while trying to rejoin. And now this one between Vern, Ocon and Hartley now then. So out of the race goes Brendon Hartley, and we're down to 19 runners as a result. And I wonder if they're still down there. Yes, they are. Has Vern beached the car in any way, shape or form? And, well, he's struggling to get it moving. I wonder if Vern's race has now come to an end as a result. And, well, that's that really, and let's see, is Vern able to get moving? Let's see what he's able to do. And so Vern, I think, might have beached the car, but we will wait and see. Unless he's waiting for a gap in the traffic, then I don't know. But this could be the end of Vern's race in the GRM. He's now a lap down from the rest of the pack as a result. And pretty much his race has effectively been ruined as a result. And they're still looking for a gap in the traffic if it's possible. And, well, that's pretty much that then, really. And is this the end of Jean-Eric Vern's race? As a result, no, he's found reverse. But again, more cars are coming around as Bottas right onto the backside there of Kevin Magnussen. He better not try and overtake down at the yellow flag zone. There's the yellows, but can Bottas get in front of Magnussen before that point? I think he can just see the yellows, in fact. And will he make the move? No, tucks back in. He realises the yellows are there and now has to try again. So good on Bottas there as a result. And again, I wonder if Vern may have to give up very soon. He's still able to keep it going, but at this rate, he's just going to be stuck there for a while. And there you have it. He's given up. Jean-Eric Vern out of the race, and we're down to 18 runners in this Grand Prix. Vern out, and well, I wouldn't be surprised if he'll be the one getting punished for causing that collision with Ocon and Hartley there then. And well, Ocon and Hartley were just essentially passengers in that accident. Meantime, Alonso now then on lap 35 of the race. So meantime, we need to see if Sainz is closing up onto Pérez, and it does look like, in fact, that Sainz is closing up onto Sergio's Dorado. Sainz has got some pace in that shadow car as he looks to try and get the team's first ever podium, and his first ever podium as well in IFMC, as they now go up towards the first few corners on track. Let's see what the gap is like between Pérez and Sainz. It's 2.4 seconds from the last time we checked. Sainz took 2 seconds out of Pérez's lead from the last time we checked on, which was about 2 or 3 laps ago. And Sainz has definitely got some raw pace in that shadow, as the fans will be cheering him on to get that shadow onto the podium as they now go through the right-hander. Now then, Sainz doing a fabulous job in that car as they now go up towards the left-hander. And maybe Sainz could be a future champion in this series. Who knows? As they head down the hill towards the turn number 6 and 7 on the track, as they flick the car in, and Sainz doing whatever he can to get on terms with Pérez for that final podium place, as now Giovinazzi finds himself on the backside of Daniel Ricciardo, is unseen by the cameras because of that collision. Giovinazzi has taken the place of Vandoorne, so up to 8th place goes Antonio Giovinazzi, and he now finds himself all over the backside of Daniel Ricciardo's GRM as he tries to take 7th from the Australian, as Leclerc looks to try and catch back up to Vandoorne in the AMP behind him. Down the back straight we go. Will Giovinazzi get the move done on Daniel Ricciardo? He goes down the inside. Will Giovinazzi get the move done? And he can. Up into 7th place goes Antonio Giovinazzi, and takes the place of Ricciardo. Will Vandoorne now try and close up to the Australian? And at the same time, Leclerc looks like he's slowly closing back in. As a result, Hamilton has gained up into 11th place, so he's making a move at this stage. While he's staying in 11th at the moment, he's just slowly closing up to fellow Etihad employee Charles Leclerc at this stage. Bottas getting up to 13th at the moment in this race. As in a few laps time, we should be expecting the second round of stops to get underway in this Grand Prix. And I wonder if Vettel is starting to gain onto Alonso a little bit. I'm not sure at this stage. I'll check the gap in a little bit. But look how close now Sainz is getting to the back of Sergio Pérez now then in the Dorado. Sainz has definitely got some pace in that shadow at this stage as he goes through the right-hander. Out of the corner he will go now then as he heads down towards the left-hander on the track. So through goes Sainz now then as he heads down out of the corner, using a lot of curb on the outside. Heading down towards the quick left-right chicane now then on the track. And so that's that then really. And well, not a quick left-right chicane, probably a medium left-right chicane, as Grosjean is now starting to close up onto Hülkenberg. Grosjean now starting to close up onto 5th place man Nico Hülkenberg, and even Giovinazzi might fancy his chances, as now Vandoorne is now onto the backside of Daniel Ricciardo's GRM now then, as I go up towards the infamous turn 8 section. As now we'll have a quick look and see what the gap is like anyway between the top two for anybody who is wondering in this race. And we are on lap 37 of 65 now then in this Grand Prix, so we now have, including this lap, I believe 28 laps to go in this Grand Prix. We're still yet to get to the second round of stops. Let's see what the gap is like now between Alonso and Vettel as we now come up towards the first few corners on the track, and it's 11.7 seconds. Alonso looks like he's got this one in the bag unless something happens to him. And in front, what's the gap now between Pérez and Sainz as we go towards the first few corners on the track? Sainz with some blistering pace in that car as he heads towards the first few corners, and the gap between them is now, let's have a look, 1.5 seconds. That is a lot of time that Sainz is taken out of it. The former EMR protege who moved to Shadow Mercedes in the top class, and he's so far showing what he is worth as he is starting now to pile the pressure onto Sergio Pérez's El Dorado as he goes through the right-hander now then on the track. And now going through the right-hander now then. Sainz really doing a good job in that car as he flicks the car through in towards turn 6 now then. Sorry, turn 5, using a lot of curb on the outside there. Then as out goes Scott Dixon. Dixon is out of the race. What has happened to Scott Dixon? Let's have a look. Whereabouts is he on the track? And there it is. It is a fiery engine for Scott Dixon. So out of the race goes Scott Dixon in the Mars Grand Prix car, and we're down to 17 runners as a result. Scott Dixon out of the race with a fiery engine, a double retirement for Mars Grand Prix, and we're down to 17 runners. Meantime, back to this battle for third place between Pérez and Sainz at this stage now then, as meantime Vandoorne still unable to find a way through on Daniel Ricciardo's GRM. Ricciardo doing a good job fending him off at this stage. As meantime now then, Leclerc looks like he's getting caught up by Lewis Hamilton, who's trying to make his way back through the field at this stage of the race as they go through the right hand of Vandoorne. As we got a yellow flag, why have we got a yellow flag? And oh, that's Dixon's car there. That's still being hoisted over. I thought the yellow flags had cleared at this point, but clearly the marshals are taking an age clearing his car at the moment. But let's see now then what the gap is like between Sainz and Pérez now then. As Vandoorne still stuck behind Ricciardo at this stage. The gap between Pérez and Sainz now then, as we're on lap 38 of 65 in this Grand Prix, is now, as we go down towards the first few corners on track, 1.3 seconds, a few tenths of a second, 3 tenths I think there, Sainz gained, or 2 tenths of a second, Sainz gained onto Pérez there. He's continuing to pull away. Continuing to gain onto Pérez, I should say, not pull away, I do apologise. As the meantime now then, Vandoorne in the slipstream, but again it just looks like that Ricciardo has got him covered. Ricciardo defends the inside from Vandoorne into that corner. Leclerc going defensive for Hamilton there. I wonder if there'll be a call from Ollie there to go over to Jake Romsey and say, can you please let Lewis through, please? And but we will see if he responds to that now then as I go down towards turn 4 on the track. Will Vandoorne get the move done on Ricciardo? No, not close enough, and Hamilton not even close enough to the backside of Leclerc there to make an attack on him there then, as Räikkönen tries to make his way up through the field as he's now on the backside of teammate Kevin Magnussen. Magnussen having a torrid weekend at the moment, and it looks like it's not going to improve for the Dane. Räikkönen not close enough to make a pass on his teammate at this stage, and maybe try and line him up for a pass down in towards turn 4 perhaps, as now up towards turn 3 we go. And is Räikkönen going to try and get the move done on Kevin Magnussen as we go down towards turn 4 on the track? Räikkönen now in the slipstream. Will he get the move done on his teammate? No, Magnussen not letting him go that time around now then, as Alonso is pitting at the end of lap 39, so the second round of stops are officially underway. Alonso is pitting at the end of this lap now then. Let's see what the gap is like between Sainz and Pérez this time around. Sainz will probably be hoping to try and jump him into the pits if he can. Sainz running around about 2.9 litres less than what Pérez is running in that El Dorado at the moment as they come down the pit straight. The spray continuing to worsen in this race. 1.1 seconds is the gap, another 2/10. Sainz took out of Perez's lead that time around as they go through turn 2 now. Then Sainz doing whatever he can to get in the slipstream of Sergio Perez now then, and I do apologise for the drop of frames. I do apologise for that as now we head up towards the right-hander on the track of turn 4, and so now going around the corner, and he'll be looking to try and leapfrog him if he can. Alonso now coming up to traffic in the form of Oliver Rowland, and as mentioned, he is pitting at the end of lap 39, which is now 27 laps remaining in the Grand Prix. As now we go through the left-hander, and now going up towards the final 3 corners on the track. Now then, let's see what he can do. Going up towards the final 2 corners, then goes Fernando Alonso, and in he goes then into the pits. Comes Fernando Alonso for his second of 2 stops now then in the Grand Prix. As he now goes in, Fernando Alonso. Let's see how quick the stop is going to be then for Nando, as he puts on a fresh set of tyres and fuel. Vettel will temporarily lead the race at this stage. And let's see where he's going to rejoin. As anybody else going into the pits, it doesn't appear like it. Fernando finishes off his stop. He's now fueled to the end of the race now then. As through goes Perez, and Sainz to temporarily take second and third as Sainz is pitting at the end of this lap. So Alonso's fellow compatriot Carlos Sainz Jr. is pitting at the end of lap number 40, as it's 0.9 seconds now between Perez and Sainz, as Sainz yet again taking another 2/10 out of Perez. It's now under a second between the pair of them, as Sainz will probably now look to try and jump Perez in the pits if he can, as they now go up towards the right-hander of turn number 4. And Sainz had some really good pace in that car, it must be said. Whether he's able to keep it up after this stint, we will wait and see. As Fernando, meantime, rejoined in 6th place behind the battle behind Grosjean and Hülkenberg. Grosjean coming up to try and catch up to Nico Hülkenberg, and Alonso not getting out in some traffic, but because of the gap he had with Vettel, I don't think he's too concerned, as Vettel will be pitting at the end of this lap, because it wasn't like that Vettel was going to make the jump on Alonso anyway, as it was around an 11-second gap between the pair of them before the pit stop. So unless that got increased from the last time we checked, but I wouldn't put it past it, as Ocon is now into the pits for his scheduled stop, as Vettel now then goes through the right-hander. He'll be joined by Sainz in the pits quite soon as well. So Vettel now then going through the second to last corner. He will now peel into the pit lane now then, and there you go. Into the pits comes Sebastian Vettel from the temporary lead of the race. It will give Perez the lead temporarily, as into the pits comes Carlos Sainz Jr. in the hopes of trying to leapfrog Sergio Perez for a final podium place, as the EMR mechanics get to work on Sebastian Vettel's car, as they put on a fresh set of tyres and fuel, which will take him to the end of the race. Alonso should go through. So there is Sainz as the Bud Light Motorsport mechanics are getting ready for, I believe, Romain Grosjean. And there is Sainz. No hold-ups there for either EMR or Shadow, as EMR finish off their pit stop. And through goes Alonso, as unseen by the cameras, he passed Grosjean. So, in fact, it's not Grosjean. It looks like it's Giovinazzi that's going to get served in the pits. So, Alonso up into 3rd place. Temporarily, it will be the lead once Perez and Hülkenberg pit in front of him. Vettel, meantime, rejoined in 9th place behind Charles Leclerc. And meantime, Carlos Sainz Jr., as Giovinazzi finishes off his pit stop. Where's he going to rejoin? Sainz rejoined in 10th place, so he's into the top 10 at the moment with some clear track in front, and hopes that he can leapfrog Sergio Perez in the pits for that final podium place, as Verstappen is in for his scheduled stop as they go through the first few corners on the track. Bottas peeling into his box as Räikkönen stays out. He'll be making a second stop quite soon in the Grand Prix. As meantime, now then, Perez not expected to pit for another 2 to 3 laps. So he'll be hoping with the clear track in front to try and pull a bit of a gap to try and stay in front of Sainz after the pit stop in order for him to get a podium in this Grand Prix. As Perez now then goes through the left-hander now then on the track. I wouldn't be surprised if at this stage Hamilton put the pass on Leclerc to get back up into the top 10 as he tries to salvage something in this race after making a collision with Kimi Räikkönen, which was sadly, the beginning part of it was unseen by the cameras. So it's unknown who caused the accident, whether it was Hamilton and whether it was Hamilton or Räikkönen's fault. We will never know. As now going through the final corner goes Sergio Pérez, as he's actually coming up to traffic in the form of Esteban Ocon's. Meantime now, Fernando Alonso now on the backside of Nico Hülkenberg. Can he get the move done on Hülkenberg now? Then he's not wasting any time whatsoever. He goes side by side with Nico now then as they get down the pit straight, as Grosjean is going into the pits this lap now then. And Vandoorne in fourth temporarily. Will Fernando get the move done on Nico Hülkenberg? Danny inside, and yes he can. Up to second place goes Fernando Alonso. And there is Hamilton slowly closing up onto Stoffel Vandoorne now. Grosjean in, as is Daniel Ricciardo for GRM. So they're making their second and final stop of the afternoon get underway for them. As far as they're concerned, Grosjean finishes off his stop. Through goes Sainz to get past the pair of them. Ricciardo being served. Grosjean, of course, staying in front of Ricciardo because Grosjean had a big enough gap in front of Ricciardo anyway. And so Sainz up to 8th and still got some clear track in front of him. As meantime, Leclerc currently in 6th place at this stage. So he's 5.6. He's got 5.6 litres left. He doesn't need to make another stop for around 3 more laps. So that's that really. As Pérez now then, again, not scheduled to make a pit stop for another 2 laps. So as confirmation that Daniel Ricciardo just came in for his scheduled stop. As now going through towards the left-hander we will go. And Pérez temporarily, of course, leading the race, but will be pitching in around 2 laps time for his second and final stop. So meantime, Vettel getting up to Leclerc, not wasting any time whatsoever. So it looks like a second place looks secure for the German. But in terms of third, whether that will be for Pérez or Sainz, we'll wait and see. Both of them have got clear track in front and are both using it to their advantage. And both of them hoping to get a podium in this race if they can. So now through towards the left-hander there then goes Carlos Sainz Jr. As we will now approach the final 3 corners on the track now then. And Sainz currently finding himself in P8 at the moment as he will try and leapfrog Pérez if he can. As meantime, Vettel now getting up to the backside of Charles Leclerc as he tries to get sick from the Monegasque drivers. Into the pits comes Stoffel Vandoorne and Nico Hülkenberg for their scheduled stops. And let's see how their pit stop gets on. Through those signs again on the pair of them. Where is Hülkenberg going to be joining us? Vettel moves up to 4th. He passes Leclerc, so up to P4 goes Sebastian Vettel, not wasting any time whatsoever as he gets up into 4th place, disposing of Leclerc. And luckily for Sainz, Leclerc will not be holding him up, his teammate, because Leclerc is pitting this lap anyway, so Sainz shouldn't worry about him at all. Is Pérez pitting at the end of this lap? And yes, he is. Pérez is pitting at the end of this lap on lap 43 of 65. Here, 23 laps remaining in the Grand Prix. Alonso should get the lead back, and Vettel should grab second back as well. But the question is, will Pérez retain third, or will Sainz do enough to leapfrog him into the pit? We will wait and see, as Pérez now then goes up towards the left-hander on the track, and we'll be seeing him dive into the pits quite soon for his second and final stop of the afternoon as he goes through the final 3 corners on the track. So going through the corner then we go. And Pérez now then going through the final 2 corners as he now pulls to the right, and into the pits comes Sergio Pérez for his second and final stop of the afternoon. Where is this going to put him out? It's going to be a crucial stop from the Audi mechanics to get their man still in front of Carlos Sainz Jr., who has just pitted a few laps earlier. So let's see then. Pérez pulls into his box. Alonso takes the lead yet again in this Grand Prix. And through will go Lewis Hamilton, but he's still yet to make a stop. Sebastian Vettel will go through. Sainz now then coming up towards the last 2 corners on the track. Pérez has finished his pit stop. Leclerc is in, unable to hold up Pérez, as now going down pit lane. Sainz now then right in the final corner. It is going to be close between both Pérez and Sainz. Who is going to get the podium in this race? Down the pit straight we go, and it's Sainz who's leapfrogged Pérez. The shadow has leapfrogged Sergio Pérez. And once Hamilton pits, he'll be on for a provisional podium. And he's even got a big gap now in front of Pérez. Pérez has lost some time, a lot of time. And Carlos Sainz is going to get flag. It's Sebastian Vettel. Vettel has spun at turn 3. Sainz will be up to second. Unbelievable stuff. He'll be a Spaniard 1-2 in Barcelona. The Spanish fans go mad here in Barcelona. And he just tugs the wheel. There then. Vettel aquaplanes off at turn number 3. And a chance of a podium has gone down the toilet for the German. Pérez will get himself back up to a provisional 3rd place. But Sainz, where is he? There he is. Sainz goes through for what will be 2nd place in the Grand Prix. Through goes Pérez. As Vettel found a gap in the traffic. No, he's having to wait for Giovinazzi to go through. And even his teammate Hülkenberg and Grosjean. And Vettel looks like he's going to be outside the points. He's having to wait for a gap in the traffic. And I bet he's swearing in the cockpit as a result. Through goes Leclerc as well. And so now, Vettel now then down to 11th place. And, well, that's a podium gone for Sebastian Vettel as he aquaplanes off. And once Hamilton pits, which will presumably be next lap, it will be a Spanish 1-2 with Alonso leading ahead of Carlos Sainz Jr. Unbelievable scenes as out goes Esteban Ocon. Esteban Ocon is out of the Grand Prix. What has happened to Ocon? Whereabouts is he on the track? And where is he? And I can't seem to find him. I think we might have missed him in fact. So we're down to 16 runners. So we'll see if we can try and find him from Roland if we can. But whatever the case, Esteban Ocon is out of the Grand Prix. And there he is, he's crashed. Ocon has crashed down at the second to last corner. He looks like he's aquaplaned down at the second to last corner. Ocon out of the race and we're down to 16 runners as a result. Ocon out, and that is the end of a disastrous day for the Frenchman. And it shows how much pace Martini has lost as a result of losing that amount of power. But Alonso now then starts lap 45 of 65 here in Catalunya. We have 21 laps remaining in this Spanish Grand Prix as we now go through the first few corners on the track as we go through towards the next few corners on the track. As now through turn 3 we go. Is Hamilton pitting in the end of this lap? Yes, he is. Hamilton is pitting from 2nd place. And it will give Sainz 2nd place in the shadow as he's now fueled to the end of the race now then as Hamilton goes through the right hander now then. And so now going through towards turn 3 on the track. And he'll go up towards turn 4. Hamilton is pitting at the end of this lap as he looks to try and get back into the points if he can after making contact with Räikkönen a little bit earlier on in this, what has been a quite chaotic Spanish Grand Prix. Not as chaotic as what Brazil was, but still, due to these wet weather conditions, it has created some very exciting racing here in Catalunya. And as per usual, Catalunya never fails to impress when IFMC rocks into town here in the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya. As Magnussen is in for his 2nd and final stop in the Suomi, so he's into the pits and he'll be joined by Hamilton in around 40 seconds time, I would presume. And so that's that really. As meantime, Grosjean now getting up to the backside of Nico Hülkenberg as he tries to get him for 6th place. As Giovinazzi passed him a little bit earlier on seen by the camera. So Giovinazzi up into what will be a provisional 4th place. So well, what am I trying to say? So essentially, the battle between Hülkenberg and Grosjean will be for 5th place in this Grand Prix. And where Hamilton will rejoin is the big question as he now comes into the pits. Into the pits then comes Lewis Hamilton on lap 45 of 65 for his 2nd and final stop of the afternoon now then, as his Etihad mechanics are waiting to serve him as he will pull into his box. And let's see how quick the stop's going to be then for Lewis Hamilton as he puts on a fresh set of wet weather tyres and fuel. And let's see where Hamilton then is going to rejoin. And he puts on a fresh set of tyres and fuel. And it's a 9.9 second stop from the Etihad mechanics. And let's see where he is going to rejoin now then. As through goes Antonio Giovinazzi and through go the battling Hülkenberg and Grosjean to get up into 5th and 6th respectively. Grosjean now starting to lose time a bit to Hülkenberg. Vandoorne goes in front of Hamilton, and as does Ricciardo. So Hamilton is going to rejoin in 9th place, just behind fellow Etihad employee and maybe future teammate Daniel Ricciardo, and in front of Charles Leclerc, who occupies P10 as Vettel tries to close him back in and try to get into the points after aquaplaning off in turn 3 just a couple of laps ago. But Alonso now with a huge lead in front of 2nd place man and fellow compatriot Carlos Sainz Jr. This is just basically a dream for the Spanish fans to see a Spanish 1-2 here in Catalonia. Pérez trying to close him in if he can, but just doesn't seem to have enough pace and enough grunt to get the shadow at this stage, as Sainz now then goes through turn number 8 now then as well on lap 46 of 65, 20 laps to go in this Spanish Grand Prix, as we now look to the battle for 5th place between Hülkenberg and Grosjean, as we now go through the right-hander Hamilton in the background trying to close up to Ricciardo, coming out of turn number 8 now then, as we'll now approach turn number 9 on the track. Hülkenberg going defensive as Grosjean looking for any opportunity to get by on Nico Hülkenberg at this stage, going through turn 10 and then up towards turn 11 on the track we will go. And Grosjean now then doing whatever he can to get the move done on Nico Hülkenberg, as now through the second to last corner and up towards the final corner now then will go Romain Grosjean. Will he get the move done on Nico Hülkenberg now then as they head down the pit straight? And will Grosjean try and get the move done on Nico Hülkenberg? He tries to tuck into the EMR slipstream. Down the pit straight we go. He tucks up. Will he try and go for it down the inside into turn 1? He tries his best, but he just seems that Grosjean's just too far back to challenge the Mercedes-powered EMR. Hülkenberg still goes defensive in towards turn 1 in case Grosjean tries to lunge it down the inside into that corner now then. And now around turn 3 will go Romain Grosjean, as the weather conditions, as mentioned, were never looking to improve during the race at all. And again, Grosjean not close enough to make a pass on Hülkenberg through into turn 4 there. As now going out of the corner, heading towards turn 5 on the track. There is Vandoorne trying to close up onto that battle. As meantime, Hamilton still stuck behind Daniel Ricciardo in their scrap for the final points place. Through towards the left-hander we go, as they head down the hill towards turn 6 and 7 on the track. And Hamilton doing whatever he can to get Vergne in this Grand Prix, as they go through the left and right-hander now then. And now up towards the infamous turn 8 we will go. And so through the corner now then, heading down towards the back straight towards the left-hander. And as you can see, Ricciardo defending the inside, and Hamilton down the inside he goes, and he takes the place. Up to P8 goes Lewis Hamilton, and still Grosjean stuck behind Hülkenberg. In fact, Hülkenberg looking like he's starting to pull a bit of a gap, as so far Hülkenberg finds himself in a Bud Light Line Motorsport sandwich at this stage of the Grand Prix. So if you only just joined us, we now are on lap 48 of 65. And we now have 18 laps remaining, and this is what the leaderboard looks like. Alonso leads, Sainz surprisingly in second in the Etihad B-teamed Shadow Mercedes, as Hamilton sets the fastest lap with a 1:35.335. Pérez is in third with Giovinazzi 4th, Hülkenberg 5th, Grosjean in 6th, Vandoorne 7th, with Hamilton rounding out the points in 8th. Then it is Ricciardo 9th, Leclerc in 10th, Vettel 11th, Verstappen 12th, Bottas 13th, Räikkönen 14th, Romain 15th, Magnussen 16th, and that is that then. We've had 6 retirements in this Grand Prix, which are Esteban Ocon. We also had Brendon Hartley, who retired a little bit earlier on in the Grand Prix, along with Jean-Eric Vergne, and a few others as well. We'll go through them at the end of the Grand Prix. As now going through the right-hander there, then goes Alonso as he's coming up to a bit of traffic, specifically the battling Roland and Magnussen. In fact, Roland was pitting anyway, so it was not really much of a battle anyway, as Roland pits for the second and final time this afternoon, as Alonso now will try and pull a lap on Kevin Magnussen if he can, a former Etihad employee when he was part of Etihad's junior GP2 team back in season 1, when he just missed out on the Drivers' Championship. Back then it was not known as Academy, it was known as EYD PGP, and a very long name, so that's why they changed it to Academy. So that's that, is now through towards the right hander, and then goes Alonso as he tries to pile the pressure on Kevin Magnussen in front as Roland finishes off his pit stop. There goes Sainz to pull a lap on him there. Then Pérez still hasn't got the pace to match Sainz. Sainz just doing an incredible job at his home Grand Prix, and I don't think anybody can fault him at this stage, as now Hamilton's now getting up to the backside of Stoffel Vandoorne now. Then as I go up towards the final corner, Hamilton looking at 2 championship points if he can, as he head down the pit straight up towards the first few corners on the track. Then we go as the rain continues to keep on going now then. And so now as we go towards the first few corners on the track, and I'll have a look at what the gap is like next time around, Robert, for what the gap is between Sainz and Pérez. It doesn't look like Pérez is gaining though, but I will check anyway. Either way, they've got a car between them anyway, so that's that really, as now Alonso is still a big lead, can pretty much just cruise to the finish, and he'll still win the Grand Prix, as he has 17 laps to go in this Spanish Grand Prix, as he just negotiates through the right-hander now then, as my mouse wire has got trapped underneath my foot there. I've just untangled it there then, as meantime Hülkenberg now starting to close back up onto Giovinazzi and looking to try and get 4 from him if he can. As meantime now, look at Hamilton all over the backside of Stoffel Vandoorne, looking to take 7 from him. Vandoorne going defensive through turn 8. Excuse me. Excuse me. Through towards turn 8. There's that Hamilton. Looks to the inside of Stoffel Vandoorne. Will he get the place off the Belgian? Down the inside, and yes he can. Hamilton up into 7th place. He gets the move done. And now next target for him is Romain Grosjean in the Bud Light Line Motorsport car. And as he goes through the right-hander on the track. And let's see now then what the gap is like between Pérez and Ocon now then this time around as they go across the line. And the gap between Pérez and Sainz now then is now as they go down towards turn 1 on the track, as Pérez is coming up to a bit of traffic in the form of Oliver Rowland. Through towards turn 1 we go, and the gap is now, let's have a look, the gap is 8.3 seconds, so a big gap between Sainz and Pérez as a result. As now down the inside goes Hamilton on Grosjean, and he gets the move done. Hamilton up into 6th place, disposing of Romain Grosjean, and now has 3 championship points. And now Vandoorne trying to capitalise and try and take 7 from Grosjean if he can, as he looks to get another championship point for AMP in this Grand Prix. And now head down towards turn 4. Will Vandoorne get the move done on Romain Grosjean? And he doesn't look like he's close enough that time around to make a pass, and has to tuck him behind the fellow Audi powered team known as Bud Light Motorsport, with Romain Grosjean piloting that car. And so that's that really at this stage. And Alonso now coming up to lap Kevin Magnussen, but again it looks like he is stuck behind. Sorry about that, as you can see now then, Sainz doing a good job up in 2nd place at the moment. Now Pérez is coming up to that bit of traffic, but now we need to get back to this battle for 5th place. Vandoorne still struggling to find a way through on Grosjean in towards turn 9, and Grosjean able to stay put for the time being now then. Sorry for the drop of frames for some parts of the race, as now going through towards the second to last corner. Hamilton then right onto the backside of Nico Hülkenberg, and probably Hülkenberg will try and use Hamilton if he can to try and find a way through on Giovinazzi if he's unable to do so. As he go down the pit straight, Hamilton now in the selection of Hülkenberg. He goes to the inside, but in fact, oh, problems for Giovinazzi! Giovinazzi's got problems! He's got a suspension failure! And did somebody clip him? No, it didn't look like somebody clipped him there. But it just looked like he pulled off, as Hülkenberg was able to use that to his advantage to fend off from Hamilton there. But Antonio Giovinazzi is out of the race with suspension failure. It's on the front right, and that's not the best place to pull over Giovinazzi. And Vettel gets into the top 10 as a result, but Antonio Giovinazzi is out of the Spanish Grand Prix. What a shame, he was looking good for some good points here today, but Giovinazzi out of the Spanish Grand Prix, and we're down to 15 runners as a result, as Bottas is starting to close in on Max Verstappen's Martini, and the car is still drivable, and well, I think he's trying to get it close to a marshal's post if he can, and well, he's now given up at that point, and a brave marshal there before Kimi Räikkönen, I believe that was, started to come up, and it was. But Antonio Giovinazzi is out of the Grand Prix, and we're now down to 15 runners as a result. As meantime now then, Alonso is about to start lap 52 of 65 in this Grand Prix. We need to get back to Hamilton and Hülkenberg, but no need, because Hamilton is up to 4th. He gets the move done on Hülkenberg. Up to P4 goes Lewis Hamilton, and unseen by the cameras, Vandoorne taking advantage of Giovinazzi's problems and moves up into 6th place. Up into 6th place goes Stoffel Vandoorne, as now Ricciardo will want to try and close up to Grosjean if he can, and even Leclerc is starting to catch back up to try and make it a double points finish for Shadow as they now go through the right-hander now then on the track. As now through towards these next section of corners then we go. And so now towards the final corner then on the track. As meantime now then Pérez now coming up to that bit of traffic with Ollie Rowland. As now towards the first few corners on the track then we go. And Pérez should be able to pull a lap on Rowland quite soon now then, as they just negotiate through the right-hander. And down towards turn 4 we go now then. Roland gets out of the way. A fellow Eldorado, fellow Eldorado employee, Sergio Pérez. So Pérez laps in with ease there then. As meantime now then, in fact, is it looking like that maybe Pérez is starting to gain a bit onto Sainz, perhaps? It does look like Pérez is starting to gain back a little bit onto Carlos Sainz Jr. as now they go up towards the turn 6 and 7 on the track. And so now we'll check and see in a little bit what the gap is like between Pérez and Sainz a little bit later on. As meantime now then, Grosjean losing time now to Vandoorne, and things have started to calm down a bit down the bottom end of the points, as Bottas still stuck behind Verstappen at the moment in this Grand Prix. Alonso now on lap 53 of 65, 13 laps remaining for Fernando Alonso in this Spanish Grand Prix. We are just under 19 minutes away from the 5 o'clock mark. So now Fernando going through the first few corners on the track, through turn 2, and then up towards turn 3 we go. And so now out the corner now, then heading towards turn 4 we will go, and people having to tippy-toe around there. Now let's see if Pérez is actually starting to catch back up to Sainz now then. Let's see what the gap is like between Sainz and Pérez as they go up towards the first few corners on the track now then. Heading towards turns 1, 2 and 3. Let's see now then, through turn 1. And the gap is now 5.2 seconds. So Pérez is gaining onto Sainz, but at the same time, it looks like Hamilton is even starting to gain onto Pérez as well. But let's not forget, Hamilton has to go through some traffic before we can get on terms with Sergio Pérez. I think the gap is 5.2 seconds or 5.5 seconds between Hamilton and Pérez. So Hamilton trying to feed himself, and maybe a chance of an Etihad 1-2 may still not be out the cards yet, as Hamilton has made a great recovery after what had happened between him and Räikkönen in the race. As we now have, as mentioned, 13 laps remaining in this Spanish Grand Prix now then. As we now head down towards turn 6 and 7 on the track. And the spray continuing to come off the back of the cars, and as per usual, judging from the weather forecast, it's showing no signs of easing during this Grand Prix. Through the left-hander we go now then, as Sainz now then still in second place, but could come under pressure from Pérez and maybe even Hamilton quite soon if he's not careful. As now 12 laps remaining for Fernando Alonso. He's now started lap 54 of 65 here in Catalunya, as now Sainz goes up towards the final corner and onto the pit straight he will go, as he's currently in second place at this stage. Let's see what the gap is like now then between Pérez and Sainz, and then we'll see what the gap is like between Hamilton and Pérez as we go down towards turns 1, 2 and 3 on the track now then. And let's see, down towards turn 1 we go, and the gap is now, let's have a look, through towards turn 1, 4.4 seconds. That's what the gap currently stands at this stage, as Pérez took around another 8/10 out of Sainz's lead there. So Pérez is gaining quite rapidly onto the young Spaniard, and we didn't see what the gap was like between Pérez and Hamilton. I do apologise for that, and so I do apologise for that, as Hülkenberg currently in 5th place at the moment. Vandoorne trying to close him back in, trying to close him down for P5 if he can, as Grosjean looks to try and get dragged along if he can. And Bottas still stuck behind. Everybody kind of separated themselves out in this Grand Prix now then, as through towards turn 6 and 7 we go on the track. And Hamilton coming up to that piece of traffic he's got to negotiate before we can get on terms with Sergio Pérez's Eldorado, as they go through the right-hander now then on the track. Heading down the back straight towards the left-hander now then, in towards turn 9. And so through turn 10, and then we'll go up towards the final 3 corners on the track. In towards the right-hander we will go. And as you can see now then, Pérez still trying everything in his power to get Carlos Sainz in this Grand Prix. Sainz just came out the final corner, and there is Sergio Pérez. Let's see what the gap is like now then between Sainz and Pérez, as well as we now have 11 laps remaining in this Grand Prix as we go up towards the first few corners on the track now then. And the gap now, let's have a look in towards the first few corners on the track, is 3.6 seconds. So that is I think he has taken another 8 tenths out of Sainz's lead there then. Hamilton, what's the gap between him and Pérez? Again, we've missed it. It seems like they're coming out a little bit late, these gaps at the moment. 1.9 seconds is the gap between Hülkenberg and Vandoorne at this stage, as they look to have a fight for P5 in this Grand Prix. As now down towards the left-hander we go now then. Carlos Sainz Jr. trying to see if he could get this first ever podium. He'll have maybe some pressure in the form of Pérez and Hamilton coming up towards him. So that's something that Sainz has got to be wary of in this Grand Prix now. Then as I go through the right-hander using a lot of curb on the outside as he goes down at the back straight now then towards the left-hander. And Sainz with the sparks coming off the back of his car. And the young Spaniard doing a fabulous job at this stage, as Hamilton's now coming up to his fellow compatriot Oliver Rowland to try and lap him. And Rowland really not helping out Hamilton. This could play into the hands of Pérez. This could, as now then let's quickly see what the gap is like between Pérez and Sainz, as Hamilton now finally puts a lap on Rowland, and now he can set his sights on Sergio Pérez's Dorado. And let's see now then what the gap is like between Sainz and Pérez this time around, as this battle for second place roars on with 10 laps remaining. The gap between the pair of them now then, let's have a look, let's have a look as they go through towards the first few corners, is 3.1 seconds. So Pérez only took a few tenths out of Sainz's lead there, as it's 3.4 seconds between Pérez and Hamilton. So yeah, so Pérez only taking what appeared to be only 5 tenths out of Sainz's lead that time. So not 8 tenths like we've seen in the previous couple of laps in this race now then, as they go through the right-hander. Through towards the left we go. And at the moment Alonso with the big lead out in front at this stage, and looking untouchable out in front, as Vandoorne looks to be dropping back now from Hülkenberg. As now down the inside goes Valtteri Bottas on Max Verstappen, the man that took him out a little bit earlier on in the Grand Prix. Side by side they go through turn number 3 we go. Verstappen still keeping his foot in round the outside through turn 3 now then. Verstappen doing whatever he can to get Bottas. Side by side they go towards turn 4, and Bottas gets the move done. Up into 11th place goes Valtteri Bottas, and gets the place done off Max Verstappen there. And Verstappen starting to drop back a tad from Valtteri Bottas as a result. Now let's get back to the battle for second place between Pérez and Sainz now then, and even Hamilton, who's starting to close in as well in the Dorado, in the Etihad, I do apologise. Through the final corner then goes Pérez and down the pit straight, and let's see what the gap is like between the pair of them now then as they head down towards the first few corners on the track. 9 laps remaining in this Grand Prix, and the gap is now, as they go up towards turns 1, 2 and 3, is 2.6 seconds. So another 5 tenths Pérez took out of Sainz's lead that time around. It's 3.2 seconds between Hamilton and Pérez. So Hamilton only taking 2 tenths out of Pérez's lead that time around. And so not gaining as much as he would have wanted to that time around now then, as they come around turn number 3 on the track and in towards turn 4 we go. As the spray picks up, as we all have a scrap for second place in this Grand Prix. Sainz, as mentioned, just got to try and keep his cool in second place to ensure that he gets his and the team's first ever podium. And trying to get his and the team's first ever podium in IFMC, if he can just keep his cool as he goes through the right-hander. And I'm sure that Etihad will also be proud of their B team, of Shadow Mercedes, which has been nicknamed as their B team. And to see Sainz up in second place, and it will be a great achievement for Shadow as well to pick up the podium after in only their 3rd season in IFMC. And that's that really. So now we go up towards the final few corners on the track, as they now go towards the final corner. Let's see now then what the gap is like between Pérez and Sainz this time around, as we go down the pit straight, and the gap between them is now with 7 laps remaining. Let's see as they go down towards turn 1, and we'll also have a look at the gap between Hamilton and Pérez through towards the first few corners of the track, and the gap is 2.1 seconds. So Another 5 tenths taken out of Sainz's lead that time around now then. 2.5 seconds now is the gap between Hamilton and Pérez. So Hamilton took 7 tenths out of Pérez's lead there. So Hamilton is also gaining quite rapidly onto these 2 in front. As now through turn number 4 we go on the track. As now in towards the left-hander we will go. And the shadow of Sainz, again, just trying to keep his cool as he uses a lot of the curb on the outside there then to get himself up towards turn 6 and 7. And now, let's see what he is capable of now then. Up towards the infamous turn 8 we go. And now down towards the back straight we go. In towards the left-hander now then. As Pérez is getting a tad bit closer now then to the back of sides, and even Hamilton's getting close to Pérez as we enter the closing stages of this Spanish Grand Prix here in Catalunya. And let's see now then what the gap is like between Pérez and Sainz now then as they go through the right-hander. Let's have a look and see what the gap is going to curtail. Around the final corner and onto the pit straight we go. And the gap between Pérez and Sainz, let's have a look as they head down the pit straight. The gap is now going up towards the right-hander. Let's have a look. The gap is now, let's have a look, 1.8 seconds. So only 3 tenths that time around Pérez took out of Sainz's lead. And it's 1.7 between Pérez and Hamilton. So Hamilton took 8 tenths out of Pérez's lead that time around. So while Pérez is gaining onto Sainz, Hamilton is gaining onto Pérez in front. And we have a 3-way scrap for second place in this Grand Prix between Carlos Sainz Jr. in the shadow, Sergio Pérez in the Dorado, and Lewis Hamilton in the Etihad Racing. So that's that really, as they come up towards the left-hander on the track. Going through towards the hairpin now then. As now out of the corner now then we go up towards turn 6 and 7 we go. And now out of the corner now then we go. Let's see what let's see how tense this battle is going to get towards the end of the Grand Prix. As we have looking at it now, well, Alonso will be crossing the line soon to start lap 60 or 65, so he will have 6 laps to go in the Grand Prix. So 6 and a bit laps for Sainz to just hold off these 2 and to hold on to this podium place in order for him to get his and in order to get his and Shadow's first ever podium in IFMC as they go up towards the final corner on the track. Down the pit straight we go, and let's see now then what the gap is like between Pérez and Sainz now then as we go down towards the first few corners on the track. Let's see now then as they go up towards the first few corners. 1.4 seconds now is the gap, so Pérez takes 4 tenths out of Sainz's lead there then, as it's 1.2 between Pérez and Hamilton. So Hamilton took 5 tenths out of Pérez's lead in front. So now through the right-hander we will go. So we now have 6 laps remaining in this Spanish Grand Prix, and this battle for second place is getting quite tense now then as I go through the right-hander. Out of the corner we will go. In towards the hairpin. And now around the left-hander we go. Now they're heading down towards the left-right chicane. And so far now then, Sainz continuing to hold on to second place at the moment. And now going through towards the right-hander. And so far now then, Sainz looking quite comfortable in second place at this stage, as we now go through in towards the left-hander. And so Sainz now then doing a good job in second place at the moment, but still Pérez and Hamilton really trying to close that gap up and try and ruin any chance of Shadow getting a podium here in Spain, and having 2 Spaniards on the podium. As we go through the final corner now then, 5 laps to go for race leader Fernando Alonso. What's the gap between Pérez and Sainz now then as they go down the pit straight now then? 5 laps remaining in this Grand Prix as they go towards the first few corners on the track. Let's see now then And it is 1.1 seconds. And it's 0.8 between Hamilton and Pérez. So Hamilton is now under a second behind Pérez at this stage. I think Pérez took 3 tenths out of Sainz's lead there that time around, which is why it's 1.1 seconds, I believe it is, between the pair of them, as they now go up towards the right-hander. But Pérez might be busy trying to fend off from Hamilton before he may have a chance at trying to get Sainz for second place in the Grand Prix. As now we go up towards the left-hander on the track. Now through we go now, then heading towards turn 5 on the track. Out of the corner, using a lot of curb on the outside as we head down the hill towards turn 6 and 7. And let's see now then, as they go out of the corner now, they're through towards the right-hander on the track. And through turn 8 we go. And the pair of them getting closer to the Mercedes-powered Shadow. And now, let's see, Hamilton not close enough to make a pass on Pérez down at this point, down at this left-hander. So maybe he has to wait for the pit straight pass to have an attack on Pérez there. Looked like he got into the corner a little bit better than what Sergio did going into turn 9. And Pérez may need to focus on Hamilton a bit before he could have any chance of challenging Carlos Sainz Jr. because Hamilton is more coming under pressure. Is more of a pressure to Pérez at the moment than what Sainz is in front. So Sainz will be hoping they battle for a while so that he can pull away. As we have 4 laps remaining in this Grand Prix for race leader Fernando Alonso. Hamilton now tucking up into Pérez's slipstream. Will he get the move done on Sergio Pérez? He tucks up onto Checo. Tucks up into the slipstream. Will he try and go for it down the inside into turn 1? No, he doesn't. Pérez defends the inside and keeps hold of third place for the time being. 1 second exactly is the gap between Sainz and Pérez that lap around. 0.3 the gap between Hamilton and Pérez. Through towards turn 3 we go now. Then Hamilton all over the backside now then of Pérez with 4 laps remaining. Can he try and get Pérez into turn 4? He looks to the inside. Can he get the move done? And yes, he can. Hamilton up into third place as Vandoorne's back in the pits for some reason. Why is Vandoorne back in the pits? He's got throttle problems. Vandoorne has got a throttle problem. What a shame. He was looking good for points, and it's all come to nothing. Vandoorne into the pits to sort out the throttle problem, and it now puts Charles Leclerc into the points as he chases down Ricciardo. So now Shadow have a chance of a double points finish. Meantime, Sainz now having to fend off from Lewis Hamilton as the podium is becoming more pressurising for this now. And as I go through the right-hander, 4 laps remaining for Carlos Sainz Jr. as he head down the pit straight towards, the back straight towards left-hander. Pérez still trying to keep up with Hamilton now then. As they go up towards the left-hander, Hamilton breaking out a little bit later than what Carlos did going into turn 9. And now, could there be an Etihad 1-2 on the podium? A legit Etihad 1-2, which will be in Ollie's dreams, the dreams will come true, for Lewis Hamilton. As now we go up to for Etihad, I should say. It's going through the final corner. Goes Lewis Hamilton. Would he get the move done on Carlos Sainz Jr.? Going down the pit straight now. Then he tucks up. He looks to the inside. Can he get the move done on Carlos Sainz Jr.? And yes, he can. Sainz just had no response. And up into second place goes Lewis Hamilton. And it's now an Etihad 1-2 yet again in this Grand Prix. And they're looking good for a legit first ever 1-2 in IFMC after so many attempts in the series. Now can Pérez try and put pressure on the young Spaniard and any chances of 2 Spaniards being on the podium here in Spain with 3 laps remaining in the Grand Prix. As they go through the right-hander now then, Sainz just trying to keep hold of Hamilton's slipstream if he can to try and get away from Sergio Pérez. Down the hill we go then, through towards the left-hander of turn number 5. And now heading down towards turn 6 and 7 on the track. I don't think Pérez will be close enough to make a pass down the back straight on Sainz this time around, because I think Sainz is still clipping onto Hamilton's slipstream at this stage now then as I go through the right-hander. And Pérez now then doing whatever he can to get Pérez in front of him. Alonso will be starting his penultimate lap quite soon at the Grand Prix. Pérez not close enough to make a pass on Carlos Sainz Jr. at this stage. So that's that. Give me a moment. Sorry about that. Somebody called me and it was a random phone number. I don't pick them up because it's usually, you know what I mean. So anyway, we are now onto the penultimate lap again. Pérez not close enough to the backside of Sainz, but Sainz going a tad bit defensive in towards turn 1 there. Sainz doing everything in his power to fend off this podium from Sergio Pérez, as it's 0.6 seconds between the pair of them as I go through turn 3 now, then on the track, down towards turn 4. It doesn't look like Pérez has got a run on Sainz this time around. No, Pérez not close enough to make a pass on him through to turn 4. As at the moment, Sainz doing a good job fending him off at this stage as they go out of turn 4, up towards turn 5 on the track. And that's that really as they go through the left hand and out the corner, using a lot of curb on the outside there. Then as they head down towards turn 6 and 7, looks like Sainz got a lot more traction than what Pérez did coming out of that corner. And, well, as that really, Hamilton now starting to get away from the battling Sainz and Pérez. Through towards turn 8 we go. Will Pérez try and get a run on Sainz down this back straight? And that's that really. And so through in towards the next corner on the track now then. Again, hang on. Sorry about that. Meantime, Fernando Alonso is on his final lap here in Spain. What a brilliant race it has been for the Spaniard. He started in 4th place, but we'll go back to it in a little bit because will Pérez try and get the run on Carlos Sainz Jr. into turn 1? No, Sainz defends the inside from Pérez in towards that corner. Alonso started in 4th place. He got up the field and as a result, carved his way through the field after all the cars that had happened and managed to get the lead from Räikkönen. As a result, he is looking good to take his first legitimate victory of the season, and it looks like Etihad are finally going to get the 1-2 that they have been craving for so long. Sainz defends Pérez in towards turn 4 there then. And, well, Sainz doing a good job holding him off at this stage. They go out of the hairpin now then in towards the left-hander as Alonso goes down the backtrack and up towards turn 9 for the final time as Vandoorne now sets the fastest lap of the race. Stoffel Vandoorne sets the fastest lap in the AMP. What a surprise there. Meantime, can Pérez try and get Sainz down towards this back straight and try and ruin any chance of Sainz getting a podium? Down the back straight we go. Sainz, can he just defend for one more time? Pérez down the inside. And Pérez grabs 3rd from Carlos Sainz Jr. What a shame for Sainz. He came so close, but it didn't happen. But meantime, it is Fernando Alonso who wins the Spanish Grand Prix. Congratulations to him and the Etihad Racing team. As meantime, Lewis Hamilton now then goes up towards the final corner. And he's going to grab 2nd place, and Etihad finally get the 1-2 that they've been craving for. Lewis Hamilton finishes in 2nd. Sergio Pérez on the last lap gets 3rd. Carlos Sainz Jr. so close to a podium, finishes in 4th. But I don't think he'll have anything to be disappointed about because what a drive from the young Spaniard and probably a champion of the future as well. 4th place goes to Carlos Sainz Jr. Nico Hülkenberg is going to cross the line 5th in the EMR. And so that's that for him really. 5th place for Nico Hülkenberg. It's going to be Romain Grosjean. He's going to cross the line in 6th. Daniel Ricciardo crosses the line in 7th. Charles Leclerc makes it a double points finish with Shadow in 8th position. Sebastian Vettel 9th after aquaplaning off at turn 3 earlier on in the race. Valtteri Bottas got into the top 10, so he's going to finish in 10th place in the end as they go through the final corner. As now down the pit straight goes Valtteri Bottas, and it is going to be P10 for the Finn. Max Verstappen is just going to hold off Vandoorne to finish in 11th. Oh, can he? Because Vandoorne looking to the inside. No, Verstappen 11th, Vandoorne in 12th, Räikkönen 13th after the contact he had with Hamilton. Unfortunately, we'll never know who caused the accident because we didn't catch on to the first bit of it. But there you have it then, guys. It is Fernando Alonso who wins the race here in Spain, and Etihad finally get the 1-2 that they have been craving for in IFMC. So there you have it in, guys. After all of that, here is the result of the Spanish Grand Prix. A very exciting Spanish Grand Prix. It is Fernando Alonso who won the race, with Lewis Hamilton in 2nd, Sergio Pérez in 3rd, with Carlos Sainz Jr. 4th, Nico Hülkenberg finished in 5th, with Romain Grosjean 6th, Daniel Ricciardo 7th, with Charles Leclerc rounding out the points in 8th, then Sebastian Vettel 9th, Valtteri Bottas 10th, Max Verstappen 11th, Stoffel Vandoorne 12th, with Kimi Räikkönen 13th, and teammate Kevin Magnussen in 14th. If we scroll down the rest of the field, Ollie Rowland, the last of the finishers, in 15th position, and the retirements were Antonio Giovinazzi, Esteban Ocon, Scott Dixon, Brendan Hartley, Jean-Éric Vergne, Ed Jones, and Pascal Wehrlein. They were the retirements of the Spanish Grand Prix in the end. So let's see who set the fastest lap of the race then. Let's quickly have a look, and it was Stoffel Vandoorne with a 1 minute 34.890. He was 4 tenths quicker than Lewis Hamilton in the end, so the fastest lap belonging to the Belgian driver. And there you have it then, guys. That has been it from the Spanish Grand Prix here in Catalonia. I hope you enjoyed it. It has been a very entertaining weekend, and well, what a fantastic weekend on our return to the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya. But there you have it then, guys. That has been it. I hope you enjoyed it. We will see you then, guys, next weekend at the European Grand Prix at Donington Park. The first time the drivers will be going to Donington Park, and it'll be the first of our 2 visits to the United Kingdom. And Lewis Hamilton and Oliver Rowland looking to put on a show in front of their home fans if they can. But until then, guys, that has been it. I hope you've enjoyed it. The podium for the top class is coming your way just after this. But until then, guys, that has been it. I hope you've enjoyed it. So thank you very much for watching. I've been JWF1, and I will see you guys next weekend at the European Grand Prix in Donington. Until then, take care and enjoy the podium.